YouTube, an online platform with over 61 million creators, and me. In a world where our media is getting shorter every day and multiplying over itself even quicker, can a Sex and the City recap video really be considered entertainment? I think the better question is will we even get past the copyright strike? That's right, people. It's a Sex and the City recap video. Hi, my name is Valerie, and I post whatever I want. I have been gone, I think, for about 5 months now, maybe 4. And it's because I've been unable to move past this video and unwilling to start anything else until I finish this one. And this is a recap video that took 3 seasons to watch, and I just took forever to do it. But I really like watching like all of those like recap videos that are going on, you know, Mike's Mike, Jenny Nicholson. I think they're really fun, and I just like to have them on in the background, especially when I'm like working. I just think it's nice, and I wanted to do something myself. I love watching Sex and the City. It's one of my favorite shows, even if what will happen in this video will make you think otherwise. And I just thought it would be kind of fun to go into depth about it, because I feel like people know about the show, and you know, they know like certain things, but they don't really know what's like going on in the actual show itself. Like, what are the plot points? Like, have we lost the plot? Yes. I would also like to note that I got a very nice Sex and the City hat, and I thought I would be serving Steven Spielberg by wearing it, but I am not. I think it's my bangs. I also think I just did not wear the right outfit for this, but it's very nice. And I would like for everyone to ooh and ah for a moment at it. I'm gonna be using this pin board to also just keep track of all of our characters. There's the main set, and then there's like a cycling cast, so I thought it'd be good to kind of visually show what we're working through. So starting off the series, we have Carrie Bradshaw. I don't think this is close enough to the screen. Oh well. So Carrie is our main character. Sex and the City is based off of a novel, which was prior articles over in a newspaper created by Candace Bushnell. She was an avatar for the actual like pages Sex and the City, because Candace didn't want like her friends and family to know that she was the one writing these things. For anyone who doesn't know, Carrie in the show is a columnist who writes for the made-up newspaper, the New York Star, and she writes a weekly blurb, which is a column called Sex and the City. She lives in a brownstone in New York on this fake street, 245th East and 23rd Street. She's dealing with some parasocial relationships and needs some space. Too many articles are reading into her. Let's remember, she's just a girl. Next we have Samantha Jones. Samantha is one of Carrie's best friends. In the like prequel show on the CW, Carrie Diaries, we actually learned that Samantha is Carrie's cousin. It's never mentioned in the show, it's never mentioned in the main show though. But basically, Samantha is a PR agent. She runs like her own company at some point. She's real big into social scenes, sex scenes. She's known for like being open to everything, and she is honestly one of the most loyal friends, I would say, out of the group. She's a girl's girl, but I would say a little too much. Next we have Charlotte. She is our New York wasp. She is very conservative, but not as much as you would think so. She is looking for her dream man. She wants to get married, and she is on the hunt. This girl does not stop. She is the funniest person in the world, and she runs a very well-known art gallery. How she is able to live in her classic 3-room apartment in New York on a art gallery salary, I have no idea. I say nepotism. And finally, we have Miranda. She is what people are saying is like the modern Carrie that we should all, you know, dream of being. Miranda, before I watched the show, I would have agreed with people. Now watching the show, I'm a little in between. She is a high-power lawyer. She is all business, no games. She is probably the most stereotypical New Yorker out of all of them. and she is not beating the lesbian allegations. There is a romantic cast that does get standardized after a while. Everyone knows Big was a part of that, but I'll be adding them as they go because we start off with our main four and then we kind of cycle through. I also won't go into much depth about these girls because I feel like as the show will go on, you kind of start to understand who they are as people, and I feel like they're just so enclosed in like the zeitgeist that you already know who they are. I told you who they are already and you get it. You just get it. You're cool like that. They are archetypes of third wave feminism from like the 90s to like the early 2000s. And you very much do feel that, especially with like Samantha and Charlotte, but you will get to know more about them as we go through every episode. So before we actually get into the pilot episode, Sex and the City, I'd actually like to start off with our opening, which is iconic in its own way. And I would even like to preface that the opening was controversial, as all good openings are. Everyone was shocked, gagged even, when everyone saw Carrie in that revolutionary white tutu a la Urban Outfitters Y2K Lizzie McGuire McBling. It changed the course of our history. So there isn't very much to say about the opening other than that the music is catchy, it's onto the beat, we all love it. Thank you to Andy Cato, Tom Finlay, and Douglas J. Cuomo. The shot of Carrie on the bus saying that she knows about sex and that she knows good sex boggled everyone's minds. We actually all changed. It altered our brain chemistries, actually. Even more so that the reviewer Tanya Gold said about Carrie that she is dressed unmistakably as a child. Of course, we have to give courtesy to Patricia Field for all of her hard work. Lesbians stay winning. So, episode 101, I kind of wish I had printed like little title cards here, but that's for next time. So actually getting into the episode, we have Carrie as our narrator. And if you're a fan of the show, you can tell that off the bat, they tried something very different for this like opening, this like sequence, because it's very different in comparison to the rest of the TV show, where it's a lot darker, it's moodier. Carrie has her hair in like a curly bob. We love a bitch in a bob. She also feels a lot more cynical, as though love is not real in New York, but sex is. Like, Carrie is weaving us this ideal fairy tale of love and life, but we find out that it ends up in misery. Sorry, to her friend who is nameless.
Welcome to the age of uninnocence. No one has breakfast at Tiffany's, and no one has affairs to remember.
I'd also like to note that this episode in particular really captures this new wave feminism for that time, i.e. the era of we no longer need feminism because women and men are on equal ground. Okay, women are allowed to be strong and independent, but ultimately their singledom is their unsexy demise. So moving in, we get a very brief character introduction. It's these really cute and like fun like character blurbs. They get randomized as the show goes on, and we later end up losing them. They stopped doing them around like between season 2 and season 3, they just kind of stopped doing them, and I miss them dearly. I think they were like the cutest part of the show. And I also just kind of liked it because it was a reminder that Carrie's social world is a lot bigger than just these 3 women. So it's very nice to see. She is out on the field.
It's like the riddle of the Sphinx. Why are there so many great unmarried women and no great unmarried men? I explore these sorts of issues in my column, and I have terrific sources, my friends.
It's pretty quick, but immediately we learn a couple of things about our main cast, aside from rampant misogyny from her toxic bachelors, ahead of the times, ironically. So we get Miranda Hobbs. We know that she's a corporate lawyer, girl boss, and she's single. We get the feeling that she's scared of aging and getting too old for guys in this episode, but it actually ends up being something way different later on throughout the show. We get Charlotte York. She is an art dealer. She's single. I already have to call her out on this. These early seasons, they are not kind to my girl Charlotte. She is a wasp at the end of the day. I need to remind everyone of that. She also ends up saying this.
If you want to get these guys, you have to keep your mouth shut and play by the rules.
Honey, if the guy you're into is intimidated by successful women, maybe he's just a loser. Have you considered that? So we also get Skipper Johnson. He is around for the first 2 seasons, and they don't do very much with him. I miss him and I don't at the same time. He was very much a something character and a nothing character all at once. I'm gonna add in here, like at the side, because he kind of ends up floating around for seasons 1 and 2. He does a lot, but he also does nothing. All you have to know is that he is basically the 90s, 2000s version of like a nice guy when that was like a thing going around, and that he is just a computer nerd. There's very little, and he's very young. He's like 26 if I remember correctly. There's a lot of disagreements here and there within the scenes where it's just how women are in the world of dating. Either they're too picky or it's not enough, they're scaring men off, not being open enough, wanting better standards for yourself. I know we're just asking for way too much with that, and the options that are available are just not good enough. Truly, it's a man's world and we're just living in it. We also are later introduced to Samantha, our fan favorite character. She is an icon, a legend. We all love her. She has 1,001 video essays about her, and I recommend them all. To get them out of the way, we're at the core of our episode. Doing it like a man. We get a couple more introductions, such as Stanford Blatch, well-known GBF. He also does nothing. I have no real feelings for this man. He isn't the worst caricature in the world, but he's not exactly filling out a novel. We get introduced to our first love interest for the entire episode, Kurt. He looks like he'd look at himself the entire night in the mirror. They go back home, he goes down, she goes up, and we've got another girl boss moment of the century. Yes, queen, leave your partners dissatisfied. We get our little run-in with the titular Mr. Big. Yes, Carrie, expose your purse to all the little tidbits and tell us exactly what kind they are.
He knows I carry a personal supply of ultra-textured Trojans with a reservoir tip.
And honestly, he disappears until the end of the episode. We're getting a lot of character introductions. It goes by really fast. They really tried to put everything that they could into this pilot. We circle it back to Skipper, who reveals that he's been celibate for a year, okay? He's got a thing for cougars. We get a jump start into the Skipper-Miranda dilemma. There's a lot going on between them, and again, nothing at all. And also to finish it off, we get Charlotte with her nothing of a man. As you can tell, a lot of these men are nothing. Capote Duncan, I have opinions about him. Literally irrelevant. Spoiler, Charlotte says that she doesn't want to sleep with him the same night of their first date. He says, okay, cool. And then after dropping her off at her apartment, he tells her that he's going to go to like a club to actually sleep with someone. Sure. Charlotte is also played for a fool very often in the first season. And that's how we learn that, she's supposed to be like the sweet, innocent one. But like, this is a grown woman. She should know better. Miranda and Skipper get solid. And we also get this weird inkling at the very end of the episode, once she's with Capote Duncan, who ended up sleeping with Sam, that Sam is just kind of not very happy with her lifestyle as like a free roaming woman. They don't do very much with this, the rest of the franchise. I feel like they just didn't know what to do with Sam in the very beginning. And they thought, oh, a woman doesn't want to be alone. My opinion, they try to bring a diva down. Carrie actually ends up leaving the club with Big. They share a cab. And there, Carrie calls herself a sexual anthropologist. We name drop her article, and she explains having sex like men. So afterwards, when she's dropped off in front of her house, she confronts Big about what she talked about. And he says that Carrie has just never been in love. Freeze frame. Carrie is shaken to her core. She has been humbled like never before. Episode 2, Models and Mortals. So this is actually an episode that like really irked me when I first started my rewatch, and then again rewatching it for this video, which is that the entire series, it really pushed this concept of like us versus them. And in this case, it's us normal people versus them hot people, i.e. models. And we have like this real hater energy, like, honey, just because kindness is free does not mean that it's cheap. So basically the whole episode is models are airhead bimbos and they only want money.
You guys just think you're dumb, but I'm really very literary. I read, I'll sit down and I'll read a whole magazine from cover to cover.
No. Am I somewhat biased because I got complimented when I went to New York and now that has inflated my ego like never before? Maybe. I'd also like to compare this episode to being the 90s version of finding out your boyfriend's like ex-girlfriend is like an influencer with like 500,000 followers. It's kind of intimidating. There's a lot of different perspectives in this episode overall that honestly make the opening pretty meaningless to go into depth about without just talking about what they're trying to say about these women who use their beauty as their job. They're kind of looked down upon. Miranda is very insecure. I'd like to preface that. She kind of resorts to insulting models while simultaneously saying that they're unrealistic standards upheld by society. I'm sure that was riveting for the 90s to hear about. Charlotte is very much accepting of these standards and is very insecure about herself. She hates her thighs. Samantha is fully confident, thinking that being compared to one means she's as pretty as they are. And Carrie is analytical about it since she's part of this world in one way or another through her journalism, and she is kind of considered like a hot it girl. Despite my dislike of this episode, I do think that there is one thing that I like about it, and it's that they show modelizers as strictly shallow people. There's no depth to them. They just want someone who's hot, who's a model, and that's it. On the side, we get introduced to Carrie's friend Barkley. It's one of the first like rare introductions that we get where like we fully understand a character. They kind of drop this after a while because it takes up way too much time. And he also disappears after the first episode like a lot of men do, so I just think they gave up on that. He also is some nepo baby artist that lives in like the largest studio you can imagine in New York. He's very psychological warfare though, calling female models things and secretly recording women when he has sex with them. I hate him. So have this instead. Also, Carrie watches the videos with him. Later on, Skipper confirms with Carrie that he thinks that him and Miranda are a solid thing. He's super into her. Very much into her. She is not.
Hey, this is Skipper. I'm in the street with Carrie. I just told her you won't call me back. So now you have to call me back. You better call me back. No, I'm kidding.
Later on, we get Stanford and Carrie at a fashion show. Stanford is very gay and desperate. At the same fashion show, Sam meets Barkley and sets her sights on him. And at a downtown party, Carrie runs into Big and tells him her newest article is about men who date models. Big also shows that he is no better than any other man that Carrie writes about in her articles. Big surprise. Also, to me, this is like the first hint that this man is insane. I think Carrie should have seen it coming. While Samantha gets ready to hunt down Barkley, Carrie actually ends up going back to her place with Stanford's underwear model. And he says this, and Carrie thinks of him as a little manic pixie dream boy. You know, he shows that he can actually keep a conversation with her. Crazy, I know. We actually also end up learning quite a bit about him. He honestly sounds like he has like a lot of internal conflict in like a 90s next door, you know, boy next door kind of way. You know, he's asking these questions like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You never stop growing up. Kind of love him for that. He wants to have a family later in Iowa. And he just wants to lay down with Carrie. Miranda and Skipper bump in a bodega later last night and then bump at her place later on.
Miranda couldn't resist the vision of herself reflected in Skipper's slightly smudged lenses.
All right, let's get out of here.
So, also, Samantha asked for Barkley to record her because Carrie told her that he records models specifically. And it's like this piece of insecurity that they're trying to keep from the first episode. Samantha wants to feel like a model, even if it means being with this guy. But what do we end the episode on? Beauty is beneficial, unfair, and what's more attractive than someone who can make you laugh? They're so on it. Episode 3. Bay of Married Pigs. Okay, so Carrie is spending her time over in the Hamptons at Peter and Patient's house. I love alliteration. And we're seeing that they're kind of living out fun times through Carrie's stories at the Hamptons. And Peter's penis is out. You love that. Carrie lets Patience know, as all good friends do, and Patience pops a point. I'm trying. So this whole episode is about how you're viewed when you're living single by people who are married. Is this like relevant? I feel like I haven't heard anything similar to this in a while, but maybe it's because all my friends are single or like don't care. But I do think this episode points to something interesting, which is the loss of identity when entering a marriage. They don't really go too into depth about that, but they could have. The potential's there. We're facing this idea of needing to grow up and grow out of being empty and single, but simultaneously it's, I would say, pretty mature to be able to spend a night out without your partner. Later on, we run into Jason and his life partner, Lou. Carrie gets the marriage question, and then they immediately ask her to become their egg donor. But I mean, in this economy, $10,000 per egg? Those Manolas are not going to afford themselves. Thankfully, though, Stanford is with her. When they give her their business card, he immediately rips it up. Thank you. We don't talk about women that way. Also, I really have to say that I love this like mini lesbian arc that Miranda has with Sid. Like softball, Harvard hoodies, pixie cuts with awkward tension, fake dating. I wish all my friends could experience the joys of this type of relationship. Carrie is busy trying to figure out marriage and tries to figure out if married people just want to figure us out. She talks to her close married friends and they get to working it out, wondering if she really is the marrying kind. And guess what? They try to fix her up with one of their single friends, a guy who has his sights set on marriage. She's not really into him, but she wants to be. Also, I think I forgot to print a photo of him, sorry. So Carrie, Charlotte, and Samantha are out at an Upper West Side party together, and plot twist, everyone there is married. So the guy that Carrie's with in this imaginary space in here, he is very into having a family. Carrie, quite frankly, just is not that girl. Samantha exposes that a lot of the married men at the party are cheaters because she's been with them before, and Charlotte can spot a proposal a mile away. And our local hater is trying to sell Sean to Carrie. We get a peculiar period with Peter and Patience. They try to just not talk about it. So at the dinner party between her, Sid, her boss, and her boss's wife, Miranda actually ends up coming out of the black and white closet, and this kiss. This kiss. You guys. So anyway, Samantha gets back home with Charlotte's help and comes back downstairs to pull a little stunt to spend the rest of her night with the doorman. Look, am I saying that this is iconic? Yes. Am I also saying that we only view it that way because Samantha's a very attractive woman? Also, yes. So we end the night with Carrie confronting Sean about the fact that she actually doesn't really know what she wants yet. She ends it off with Sean, but don't worry, she sets him up with Charlotte. And Charlotte dumps him over dinnerware. So let's finish the episode off with an uplifting 1998 song while we all go watch a movie at the cinema. Modern day girls call this letterboxing. Episode 4, Valley of the 20-something Guys. So this episode is all about young guys in their 20s, y'all. My demographic. So Big and Carrie are having like these little meet cutes, like one after the other. They finally set up an actual date. You know, they call it a drink thing, but like still. Miranda, however, calls Skipper a fuck thing. So Samantha is busy opening up this like new thing with her PR firm, and Charlotte has a new boyfriend who she met through buying a painting at her gallery. Inside of the brand new place, Carrie is listening to her voicemail, like in the hall. I literally forgot this is something that you could do with landlines. I got really freaked out when I saw this for the first time because it really unnerved me for some reason. And she finds out through her voicemail that Big kind of can't make it. Right now, she isn't sure if he even kind of likes her. So Samantha is with John and Sam, and she ends up introducing John to Carrie. He has a tongue piercing. So basically what we have between them is a hot new chef and a guy who looks like he belongs in SLC Punk. Skipper's at the bar and he made the grave mistake of getting a rum and coke, but Sam saves the day by getting them 2 martinis. And a tongue piercing that Big walks into. It feels like it's a little low on his tongue. Big and Carrie end up talking, and Carrie finds out that he's a little impatient and not exactly willing to waste another minute there. So what ends up happening is that later that night, Samantha and Carrie end up moving to a 20-somethings club, enamored by all the types of guys that are out there. We got a whole roster of 2000 teens rom-com actors here. Groovy, corporate, jock, and underage. She learns a little bit more of his tongue piercing, and we end up finishing the night with a morning call. Carrie keeps her thing with Sam kind of lighthearted after a very simple makeout. Ooh. And his phone number written on her arm, which, I mean, like, maybe I'd giggle about that too. Then Carrie ends up asking herself, what do men see in older women?
They remind me of my mom.
So Banana Republic makes a special appearance because Carrie is actually kind of loose with her work because she literally canceled a meeting with her editor. Charlotte is actually all over her date with Brian because he actually requested that they listen to Sodom and Gomorrah by Dorian Electra, and it just canceled the whole mood. You know, they're all in there crammed together in the back of the taxi and they're just trying to help her out. Did Samantha say hole is a hole? She might be right. Anyways, one of Big's coworkers joins in on their drink thing. and they start playing their game of cat and mouse that eventually becomes this toxic plaything, and Carrie comes back home with her 20-something. We get some of Charlotte's like little troubles with her current boyfriend, and we see some more of her like internalized like misogyny. It's a little weird, like slut shaming. Like she is just not very comfortable with the implication of what she might be. I'm sure there's a word for Charlotte, you know, that talks about how she believes that she can't be a moral, upstanding woman and wife while enjoying back shots in private. So John mentions to Samantha her neck wrinkles, like for pillow talk, and Carrie gets a wake-up call in her morning after. She sees Sam's Mojo Dojo Casa house, and also her specifically saying that his candles are from Urban Outfitters. I had never felt so called out in my life. It is a core piece of being a 24-year-old girl. Carrie ends up leaving real quick, and she also ends up revealing her shoe addiction to us for the very first time as an audience. And we also get some flirting between Carrie and Big. Episode 5, The Power of Female Sex. I'd like to start off this episode by first pointing out the hostess at Balzac, her cunty hat. I'd like to take a moment for everyone to just kind of look at it. So Sam over at Balzac's tries to pull a "do you know who I am?" and she does end up getting humbled, thank God. Even getting desperate enough to try to bribe the cunty hostess. New lore is that 10 years ago, Sam used to be a hostess, and she very much acknowledges that sexism would have gotten them the best seat in the house. This is also where we get our first introduction to not only Carrie's love of shoes, but also her addiction to shopping, because when she is getting feather pumps at D&C, her card gets cut, and a European Express shows up instead in the shape of a supposed Eurotrash. Amelita, I love her. She is the kind of girl I think we all should aspire to be. However, Carrie has yet to escape her credit card debts, and it gets her interested in what it means to be someone's baby doll, which kind of tries to draw the line between a self-made woman and a rent-a-girlfriend. Samantha thinks that we should be all equal opportunists, and Charlotte talks about an artist that might be interested in using her art gallery, but she's worried he might want something else. Miranda, our girl boss, suggests to sue his ass. Carrie later on gets a midnight phone call, and she's brought into Balzac by Amelita, where we once again see another cunty headpiece. So anyways, we actually end up seeing that Amelita has set Carrie up with her friend, Gil. He is a Parisian architect who's been told everything about Carrie. She's talented, she's fascinating, and she's single. Also, the waiter is wearing like a shiny gold shirt. Like, can I please see their uniform policy? So I'd also like to note that this whole episode is literally just confirming that Carrie has a shoe addiction, because she actually ends up revealing that is a piece of her character. All of her debts and money issues kind of come from her like shopping addiction and her love of shoes. Gil is actually pretty suggestive, immediately saying in like the way that Frenchmen do, that she can just be his live-in girlfriend, which, I mean, let's be honest, is a red flag. Skipper shows up the next day, and he's worried that he's just too clingy and that Miranda just is not reciprocating it. And he's starting to get on my damn nerves. He says that he thinks he can't even spend one night at her apartment without doing it with her. Like, get out of my face. Get out of here. Carrie is on her date with Gil. She stuns in this like red jacket, blue like boa, like in the middle of a park date. Like, I don't know, can we bring them back as like regular day wear? I have connections. What's really interesting about this date is that after Carrie breaks her no home run on the first date rule, she finds out that he left her an envelope with $1,000 in cash. Either way, we get an emergency girl call, and we get another discussion in their hotel room about like the power of female sex. So also, Charlotte takes the back roads to the painter's home, where she sees budding roses as his paintings. Neville, this man right here, offers to paint her. See you next Tuesday. And spoiler, Charlotte does it. Back at Balzac's, Carrie denies Amelita's offer to like go to Venice with her and with one of her wealthy guy friends, and gives the hostess a tampon in the bathroom. Through the power of girl code, our lovely ladies get to finally have a seat at Balzac's. And later on down the line, we get the gallery opening for Neville's new installation at Charlotte's gallery. And it's a pretty happy ending for everyone, I'd say. Episode 6, Secret Sex. So in this episode, we are finally getting Carrie's like it girl status, which alludes to the iconic She Knows Sex bus. My question is, what does it take for a 90s sex columnist in a small New York newsletter to get a bus panel? Like, how impactful is Carrie's like writing for her face to be slapped on a bus? I like to believe that it is the modern equivalent of Mike's Mike getting that interview in New York Magazine for his video essays. There has to be some correlation. So Carrie is going on a date later on with Mr. Big, and Charlotte is very nervous about her sex dress, the dress where you can see it all. So Charlotte is like all about this holding pattern of like how long you should wait to do it on a first date because it's like a ratio to your age. Interesting. I would also like to say that Samantha kind of cooked when she said that a man is as likely to dump you on the first date as he is on the 10th. Big is all about her dress, and he literally cannot stop staring, which, you know, is kind of the point. And unsurprisingly to all of us, she sleeps with Big on the first date. And I'd also like to note that we already kind of have like this like early hinting of like their kind of tepid relationship where Carrie doesn't want to be the first one to like speak. He says that they should finish their romp with a run to the Chinese restaurant that he really likes. So this is also where we get like the installation, I'd say, of Carrie's like introduction of her future like doubt and lingering sense of impermanence like in Big's life. Later on at the restaurant, once they're there, she sees her friend Mike Singer on a secret date with the woman Libby, and he's basically ashamed of what she looks like. Who, I will say, she looks very adorable. She's a little cheese girl, like, you know, she works the deli. So at Miranda's kickboxing class, she actually gets someone head over foot, and she's very into like Ted Baker, and Miranda is definitely considering him. So later on, Miranda and Carrie are walking through the park, and Carrie brings up that she's unsure of Mike and Libby and the Chinese restaurant that she and Big were at. From there, we jump to like Mike and Carrie bedsheet shopping, and I can't lie, the setting is pretty cute with them on the bed just talking. I think it's very cute. It stops being cute when we find out that he is very, very, very into Libby. He decided to keep her as a secret from his friends. Every issue that Carrie has ever had is because of Mike. More importantly, what we get from this is that many people have had secret sex and secret partners, which is not helping Carrie at all. When she goes on her true real first date with Big, runs into friends of his, and he does not introduce her to them, mention her at all. She's standing right there. He brings her back to Feng Hua, literally back to the crime scene. Carrie ends up escaping the date with a fake deadline, calls up Mike, and he says it's obscure enough, the restaurant, that no one will see him, and that's why he took Libby there. So we are finally at the bus stop for the M5 in party hats because it's Carrie's billboard reveal. Big could not make it to celebrate. Charlotte implies that she thinks it's because Carrie slept with him on the first date, and we also end up seeing the horror that someone graffitied her banner.
Oh, don't worry, sweetie, don't worry. I mean, nobody in New York notices a bus until it's about to hit them.
Carrie that night ends up actually going to Big's apartment, uninvited by the way, heads into his apartment while he's at the door, serves herself some vodka from his like little banquet, and starts listing the entire episode back to him beat by beat. Big says that he likes Feng Hua because he likes their food. The guy on the street was a guy that he couldn't remember the name of, which is why he didn't introduce Carrie to him. And that he missed the bus stop because he had courtside tickets. Did he not think of calling at least? Feng Hua I can excuse. Not knowing the guy's name, that happens to me at work still. Not calling your date because you had courtside tickets? Carrie's insecurities are put to shame. Big has, in my opinion, successfully gaslit her, and we finish it off with the possible start of a relationship. Episode 7, The Monogamist. So right now, Carrie and Big are in the honeymoon phase of their relationship. He's the only thing in her world, and Miranda is just barely now able to get into contact with Carrie And it's been a while apparently. But here are some girl talk updates. Miranda's slayed a merger, Samantha's on the prowl for an HGTV New York apartment, and Charlotte is in love with a man named Michael Conway. So Charlotte says he's little one and that he's been girlfriend approved, and his dog is allowed to watch while he pushes her head down at his apartment. Do guys just do that? But we end up finding out that Charlotte does not like to give head. Now I will say I respect her neutrality on it. She doesn't give, so she doesn't expect. Leaving the restaurant, we see our one and only Mr. Big, but he's with another woman. And let me tell you, this girl does not have a bob, she has a bomb. We're back into like Carrie and Big's like cat and mouse. Carrie is just not keeping it together. And she is questioning monogamy in the modern day. This woman is literally insane. She sees a guy that she's into talking to another woman and starts questioning if being a monogamist is something that she should like consider with her life. We turn to Samantha and her real estate agent. We do finally get another Stanford appearance, and I would say that this kind of marks his spot as a recurring character in the show. He also reintroduces himself to the show by saying that monogamy is a thing of the past. Try saying that to a U-Haul lesbian. But at a party that Carrie and Stanford are at, we get introduced to Jared, who is one of the 30 coolest people under 30, and he's 30 under creepy. Carrie is tired of the whole thing, and back at her place, Big offers for them to go on a date. He says, "I miss you, baby." I don't like how he said that. And so Carrie turns to Miranda for advice. Carrie is literally so wound up about this man that I cannot believe that just no one has told her to just stop seeing him. Like no one is reacting to how she talks about it. We also have a moment where Skipper pops up by over in the show with the new girl Allison, who works at Vogue. Miranda is lime green jello, and we also find out that she actually broke up with him. They don't tell us anything about him. He's very irrelevant to the show. But get this, Miranda leaves a voicemail at Skipper's, right? All very normal behavior. And Skipper loves it. He's very into Miranda and very inside of Allison. And we pan over to Carrie at one of Big's parties. A random girl kisses Big as a greeting, like on the lips. And when Big introduces her to a friend, he thinks that Carrie is another woman named Julia. Is Big like with 3 women right now? Carrie gets her ass out of there. She also ends up running into under 30 Jared, and at a fabulous party, mind you. We end up moving back to Miranda and Skipper, and he literally admits to her what he was doing when he listened to that voicemail. Either way though, Miranda just wanted an open relationship, and Skipper honestly reacts pretty badly to it because he's still very much not over her, as he was with Allison. So we move back on to Charlotte and her perfect boyfriend. The dog looks very fake in this scene. It does not look like it's alive. Charlotte says she doesn't work pro bono, and he says that he plans on getting more jobs from her in the future. Samantha gets caught red-handed with her real estate agent by her first real estate agent, the one with the amazing laugh.
Can't believe that you are working with another broker. I can't believe you weren't going to show me this apartment.
Carrie is at her party with 30 under 30 Jared, and she calls Big and is very much desperately trying to make him jealous, and it very much gets Big to show up. They meet at the wrong sides of the park, and it takes like an hour and a half for them to finally find each other. Will I admit that I was kicking my feet at this scene? Episode 8, Three's a Crowd. So Charlotte is starting the episode off with this guy named Jack, and it's a guy that she chases down through a couple of like health benefit galas. And in the afterglow, he asks her about her fantasies. So Charlotte said that she wants to own a house in Maine. Jack wants a triad. So what I will say is that I do think this is like a big step for Charlotte as a character. I feel like if a boyfriend told her this like at the beginning of the season, she would shy away from it, and it would be her being portrayed as like a prude. But here she's pretty open to it, and she's even kind of excited about it. So lining up with Sam's suggestion of only ever being a guest in the relationship, she's been having an affair with a guy named Ken. However, I do not like that Samantha knows that he's in a relationship with another woman. At a dance for dyslexia, Jack is pointing out girls at the bar, and I cannot stop staring at his hair. Like, what is this? Charlotte is getting pretty into the idea when a girl at the bar flirts with her, and they decide to bring her home, except it was a dream. Cue Miranda talking to her shrink. Carrie and Charlotte are chatting it up. Charlotte is saying that it should be something that she does for herself, not for Jack. Carrie later on spends the day at Big's, gets some intimacy with a necktie, And we find out that Big, first of all, has had a triad before. And secondly, he used to be married. And he never mentioned it, ever. At a makeup shop, Sam, Miranda, and Carrie are all talking it up, while Miranda commits this fatal flaw of trying on a sample lipstick inside of the store. They suggest for Carrie to get a look at Big's ex of Barbara, who happens to be in publishing. And Carrie makes up like a fake children's book about a girl with like a pair of magic cigarettes just to get a chance to talk to Barbara. And it's very Lana Del Rey, coquette, ribbon sewn into tank top's core. Back at Big's, Carrie cannot stop imagining Barbara standing right next to them like a ghost. Like it literally looks like she died. And then later on, at a lunch date with Barbara, we find out that she divorced Big because he slept with one of her friends. Is this foreshadowing? Later on, Sam finds out that Ken told his wife about her.
Hello?
It's over. I told my wife.
Who is this?
Charlotte's at a masquerade and picked a girl with a peacock mask a la Heidi Klum, but despite Charlotte's growth into her self-confidence, we learn the hardest lesson of them all, which is that someone always third wheels a trio. Miranda that night answers a newspaper ad and actually ends up getting a whole lot of validation from a very desperate couple. I wish them well. She actually ends up walking out on them, doesn't even give them a no, just walks out. Carrie confronts Big after a dinner date, and he confesses that he cheated on Barbara. You literally cannot trust anyone anymore. Big ends up smooth talking his way into getting Carrie to forgive him, and Barbara's ghost just kind of finally leaves him alone. Episode 9, The Turtle and the Hare. Let's talk Brooke. Superstar, glamorous Brooke. Married Brooke, who married to a receding hairline. Also, I'm loving the Witches of Eastwick, otherwise known as the only women at the wedding giving face. This is also where I reveal that I don't think I've, at least that I can remember, I don't think I've ever been to a wedding, so I've never experienced a singles table, let alone a kids table, because I literally go nowhere. So while we're there, we end up getting introduced to the turtle, I don't remember his name, and his massive gaping halitosis. He's also very into Samantha, and I can't blame him. 2 hours into the wedding, the girls are very bored, no one gets the bouquet, and Brooke tells Carrie that it's better to marry someone who loves you more than you love them. Ominous? Alarming? A reference to Los Campesinos? We are beautiful, we are doomed? I would have to go to a therapist after. Discussing the topic with Big, he tells Carrie that he doesn't want to get married ever again, which shakes our lover girl to her very core. Again, this is hinting. This is all hinting. Carrie, look at my red flags. So at the dinner, Samantha suggests reverse psychology. Charlotte is telling Carrie to be very sincere about her feelings. And Miranda's still playing the lesbian card by hating all men and calling them people with mommy issues. She's also got an Adam and Eve sponsorship this episode.
Well, I have no intention of using that. I'm saving sex for someone I love.
Fantastic. Is there a man in the picture?
How much can I talk about this? She's got a rabbit, and I can't lie, it's pretty iconic. We literally have them go into a shop. It's $92. Like, baby, that's $170 in today's economy. That's 3 full tanks of gas. That's a steak quesadilla at Cafe Rio. That is a single hardcover book at Barnes & Noble. Samantha is at a restaurant called Lala with a man named Jerry, a Gordon Ramsay flop who is as much of a womanizer as Sam is a manonizer, and the turtle just so happens to be at the same restaurant. He gives her the validation she wants, and honey, this is a slippery slope. But also, Sam calls him out on his breath, and she's taken on a project. We love women in STEM. Later that week, Brooke and Carrie are returning wedding gifts. Did she not have a registry? And we actually find out that Brooke settled. And later on at a yoga class, Charlotte tells us that every man she's ever been with has been horrible in bed. Honey, but that might be why she's also addicted. What can I say? You give a mouse a cookie, you give a girl an orgasm. Stanford is being petty and green because his personal ad denied him up front. I think it's because they're both bald. We also end up learning through Carrie that Grandma Stanford has been keeping his inheritance away for picking Jacob's ladders over lilies. And he suggests a lavender marriage. We also get a rabbit intervention. Miranda and Carrie rob my girl in broad daylight. And poor Charlotte ends up going back to her whatever men. Grandma Stanford is kind of a girl boss, by the way. Like she's kind of giving in this photo. Carrie comes to the conclusion that she actually does want to have a family. And Grandma Stanford calls her grandson a fruit. Grandma, you can't call people that. Also, I would like To preface that we are given sight to like the Mr. Big kitchen, keep this in mind as it will become the epicenter of like a shifting tectonic plate that is their relationship. But considering the way that Big starts talking, this man, to quote Mike's Mike, is starting to piss me off. Episode 10, the baby shower. We are introduced to Lainey, the iconic it girl of the early 90s, late 80s. And also Miranda has a bob in the flashback. I love a bitch with a bob. She is a party girl. She's got the sweet life of Zach and Cody, Carrie, pixie cut. And we also learned that both Lainey and Samantha are, to quote, extremely insecure. Also, when they're talking about Lainey, none of these people are girls. Like, they hate her. It's really funny to me. We've got the team prepping to leave the day of. I am obsessed with the sunglasses and scarves looks. Sam has scotch, Miranda brought condoms, and Charlotte comes with the biggest baby basket I have ever seen in my life. I'd like to know whose car this is because none of them can drive. It's so me renewing my learner's permit for the third time when I was 20 because they kept letting it expire because I didn't want to know how to drive. They arrive to this like massive house. The dog has a shock collar. I do not like that. The girls come to the door. We meet Lainey. She still has that damn pixie cut. We see some of the guests. Betsy is a boy mom to the worst degree. Charlotte is already a Sandy Liang girl with this massive bow in her hair. Carrie is going through the motions of trying to figure out like if she's ready to be a mom because we find out that she's actually missed her period so far. It's a little bit late. And this is actually the cuntiest place you could put a photo like this. I'm doing this. So we marathon through a bunch of unhappy wives and moms. Justice for these women. So Charlotte ends up talking to Carrie from Sweet Life. We get a name drop, and we probably get the most iconic line out of this entire episode. Roll the clip.
That's not the point.
What's going on?
She stole my baby name.
You bitch.
Our girls dip, they go to a random bar, and we've got a depression circle going on. Charlotte afterwards goes through her memory box, which is kind of cute, except it made me realize that I don't know who any of these people, like any of these men are. We get another iconic line at the pharmacy between Miranda and Carrie.
This one's on sale, half off.
Sweetie, I just spent $395 on a pair of open-toed Gucci's last week. This is not the place to be frugal.
All right.
Lainey calls Carrie later on. Lainey is all about the better years of her life, and she's very, very desperate to like hang out with these people that she used to call her friends. Carrie name drops on accident Samantha's party in I Don't Have a Baby Shower, which is another iconic move, but also, in my opinion, kind of desperate. I don't think it's a good look on anyone to do that. Samantha is slobbering over some guy named Ed. He's an accountant. Who cares? Lainey drops by without a phone call. Lainey is extremely unhappy, and this is an extremely depressing episode. We also get public shaming of Lainey trying to strip the way that she used to at like other parties. She's desperate. She's unwilling to admit that she's a changed woman. And also Carrie calls a taxi for Lainey to go back to Connecticut. Like, how much is that? Carrie is at a park. She's contemplating her pregnancy again. And on the way back home, she gets her period. Problem solved. Episode 11, the drought. We start our episode with Carrie and Big cuddling and snuggling. I hate this man with a burning passion, etc., etc. We find out that they've been together now for many weeks. And Carrie farts in front of him. That's the entire episode.
Is that you?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I think it might be worse under there.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
The scandal, the shame, a woman farting in front of a man. Just go die. Carrie is literally so dramatic in this one, and it is so funny. Like, girl, get a grip. We get a scene at ground -1. Big puts a whoopee cushion under her chair, and I can't even lie, I did laugh. It did get a chuckle out of me. Big denies Carrie's hints, and this sends Carrie into like a literal downward spiral. She's been without Big for 3 nights versus Miranda's 3 months where she's been repeating Blockbuster over and over again. So Sam and Carrie are discussing the ins and out at their yoga class, and Samantha, honey.
Huge mistake.
You think? It wasn't a choice. I'm human. It happened.
No, honey, you're a woman. And men don't like women to be human.
Do not give this as advice. We later learn about Samantha and Siddhartha, her yoga instructor. They meet at a place called Tofu or Not Tofu, and Siddhartha reveals that he is celibate, asexual king. Carrie heads off to dinner with Charlotte, and girl, I think Charlotte is the last person I would get advice from. But Charlotte talks about the good things about not having sex and that it's not the most important thing in the world, which is true. Also, we all know if Carrie had said the truth, Charlotte would have had a panic attack and honestly would have given the same advice as Sam, so it kind of is muted. Also, Charlotte is dating a guy named Kevin, and Carrie meets him at lunch. And guess what? Carrie knows him biblically. 3 years ago, they bumped uglies, and we learn this actually kind of makes Charlotte go kind of crazy in a good way. She actually ends up thinking of Kevin as even more patient. Charlotte decides to cough it up for him that night. He actually cuts the makeout short and says that he can't. He's just not that sexual of a guy. This actually makes Charlotte very insecure, and she even name drops Carrie, which is absolutely insane. Thanks for defending your friend, I guess. But it also just turns out that the guy is just on Prozac. We love a medicated icon. Also, Carrie is a voyeur this episode. She's watching this couple across her apartment, and she actually ends up getting it on for big, and they forget all of their worries, well, her worries, because of these two people, while Samantha is at some, like, meditation thing for Siddhartha. He's very into it for some reason, like beyond that. I respect the gig. Samantha really wants him, and in my opinion, she isn't really respecting his whole, like, I don't have sex thing. Like, girl, he literally told you. Like, Carrie shows up to Big while the big game is on. She's honestly acting really crazy, and he's, like, really into the game, so he's not giving her any reciprocation. Anyways, if you honestly ask me, this episode is more about a lack of respect for disinterest. Also, we get back to Miranda. We literally forgot about her. She only gets 1 second, and it's her getting catcalled at Blockbuster. Hooray. Going back to Carrie, she's at her apartment giving her ceiling and HGTV rundown. She gets a surprise visit from Miranda. Carrie admits to choosing Eggshell and that she's very much afraid about being in love and just not being perfect for him. Please, free yourself from your own chains. Get rid of the man inside of you watching you. I would say that this is also a big turning point, like, genuinely, about, like, Carrie's full admittance to her being, like, extremely insecure when she's with Big, and how, like, it just does not get better from here. It does not improve. I also really hate that I cannot show this scene, but it is with Charlotte, and she's, like, very desperately, like, fine-tuning Kevin for a moment. Like, she's nervous about him never getting the engine going, and Charlotte realizes that she might care a little bit more about that than she realized in the very beginning. I don't know why I'm doing a car metaphor. So later on, Big shows up at Carrie's apartment in the middle of her kitchen flip, and this is also the first time that he sees her apartment. He asks her about what the little event was. She admits that it was her having a meltdown, which I do agree with, actually, and all their problems are resolved because of a midnight romp. Hooray. Episode 12. Oh, come all ye faithful. So Miranda is dating Thomas John Anderson, except every time they get it on, immediately after he has to go shower. I mean, he's hygienic. Turns out, though, it's Catholic guilt. So later on at brunch, the girls are all discussing retro baptisms and not wanting to date a Catholic. Mind you, we're talking about 2000s religion in Manhattan. Today's thesis statement is, are relationships the religion of the 90s? Honey, they're the religion of the 20s. So Carrie is people watching while she's walking down the street while people are leaving a nearby church. Over there, she spots Big and Armani. He spots her, she spots him. He says he's not religious, and she finds out that it's because he took his mom to church, and he does so every Sunday. Carrie makes it extremely awkward. However, at the bar, explains the situation to Miranda and Charlotte. Carrie very much wants to meet Mommy Dearest, and Sam shows up after a 5-hour lunch with her new boy James and claims that she is in love. Personally, I think James has the eyes of a serial killer. Turns out that Charlotte's advice of waiting for the right time is something Samantha actually used to her own success. Now Charlotte has been shaken to her core. She went to a psychic because of the idea that Sam would get married before her and asked the marriage question. We get Ace of Wands, 9 of Cups, and the Hangman. I literally double checked these to make sure that, like, I could understand what was going on with the cards. because I don't trust television tarot. And what we have is a card that symbolizes you taking the fateful step to achieving your goals for the past, a card that symbolizes victory in the present, and then a card that means take a step back and mediate upon your real desires in the future. It sounds to me like Charlotte should really think about what she wants in a marriage. And we're back to my favorite location in the show, Big's kitchen. Carrie tells him that she wants to visit church, and Big flatters her and asks if she's a part of any religion. She isn't.
I'm no one religion in particular. I'm open to all.
Kind of like a 7-Eleven?
And then she asked to go this upcoming Sunday. He says that it's a private affair with just his mom. And I won't lie, I can understand that. You know, the air is kind of awkward though. He suggests that they hit up the Caribbean instead, which is okay. And we get a PowerPoint transition to a man about to finish. Miranda pretends that she just kind of wants to cuddle with him, which we all know is a lie, just to keep him from showering. And then Miranda busts out like the line of the show. Also, this man is insane after this line. His religious guilt is just off the charts.
It's a miracle! I'm healed! Oh, you're free to go work with the lepers now. I guess this means I'm not going to hell. Great news!
Samantha is with James at her place, and she's finally willing to give it up. He's all about it, and we have a scene straight out of Britney Spears' biography. Back at the church on Sunday, Carrie pops in with Miranda to get a glimpse of Big's mom while wearing their Sunday best. She ends up dropping a Bible from the second floor, calls everyone's attention. Big spots her, his mom spots her. And I gotta say, I love the costume design here with everyone except Miranda and Carrie wearing black. After Mass, Carrie confronts the pair. Big refers to Carrie as his friend. And also his mom, doesn't recognize her name, he's literally never spoken about her at all. Big refers to Carrie as another girlfriend. And he also only introduces girls when he's sure of them. He says he needs things to go at his own pace. Carrie thinks they're already there. And he brings up their, trip to the Caribbean again. That's gonna resolve everything. So later on, we get the release of a new perfume, Fallen Angel, pre-influencer gathering. When the only way to get into one of these things was a guy who knows Stanford, who knows all about his new boyfriend, Alan. I did not print a photo of him. Also, we get our first, gay on-screen kiss. Very saucy. And Carrie is discussing with him everything about Big. But get this, Miranda's there too. And so is Skipper. Miranda needs to get a grip. The girls later on join Samantha in the bathroom because she is not coming out. My girl is a mess. And she just cannot face the truth. She knows what she wants, and she just cannot bring it up with him. Also, Charlotte ends up going later on to a very alarming representation of brujeria. And it turns out she's never gonna get married. She just walks out. Back at Dancing Cathedral, Miranda is desperate enough to get with Skipper again, and Miranda, get up. We jump a little bit ahead. Big is at Carrie's brownstone, and just as he grabs her luggage once she's outside, Carrie is having her own crisis of faith. She needs a sign, a word from the big man. She is literally begging for him to tell her that she's the one. They've been dating for a couple of months. You are not at that point yet. And it is crickets. He does not say a single word. Carrie cannot go further with this in her little blue silk gloves. Big is surprised, and he leaves her on the sidewalk with her American Traveler. Carrie ends the episode by telling us that she cried for a week and afterwards found faith in herself, and that she knows that one day she'll find true love again. Alright, season 2, episode 1, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. So we start the episode off and the season off by Carrie serving haggard, I'm tired, and I'm wearing my luxurious fur coat with low-rise jeans while running away from any sight of Big. Carrie has this very fun narration at the beginning that's very reminiscent of the pilot episode. Carrie apparently is moping in her apartment for a month. Charlotte and Miranda actually come to her rescue to get her out of her post-breakup funk, post-Caribbean funk, if you will. And Charlotte actually ends up saying that however long you were with someone, it takes half that time to get over them. And I feel like that is an insane thing to request of someone. Miranda, however, is a lawyer and tells Carrie to just get over it. I don't think either of them are right. However, we do bring up the sight of Eric, someone that Miranda may or may not be over. The girls grab a cab, they pick up Samantha, we find out that she's still with James. It's a tiny penis miracle. Later on, they end up at Yankee Stadium. They're serving absolute cunt while drinking and eating hot dogs. And Miranda is saying numbers and words about baseball that I do not not understand because apparently she's a fan. She is not denying the allegations. And in the meantime, Carrie is narrating about her own scores. She's not doing the best, but she's doing good enough that she's able to get them a press pass to like the outside of the locker area, and I don't like that. Miranda apparently has been waiting to get a ball signed that she got when someone hit a home run. Carrie caught it, gave it to her friend. What a sweet girl. Miranda, however, is acting like an absolute lunatic, and Carrie ends up flirting with Mr. Yankee. He's very much into her. She's very much into him, so much so that she ends up inviting him to a Dolce & Gabbana party. I, too, am waiting for my own invite. Also, when everyone else leaves, Samantha still waits outside of the locker room to, like, ogle at these guys who are, like, ass naked. Girl, that is harassment. Get out of there. We get a couple of interviews with personal rules that people have for their relationships, and then we actually end up skipping back to Carrie in an aquamarine dress that actually makes me go insane. Look at her. She ends up finding a photo that she forgot about that has her and Big in it, in, like, her bed, and she decides to further destroy anything with his sexy face on it. So what ends up happening is that Carrie, Charlotte, Yankee, and Charlotte State Paul are actually all there together. I'm sorry, Stanford. You're not relevant enough. Also, apparently, Paul is the VP of a record label who scratches himself in public. And Charlotte swats it away. She knows. Stand up. Also, Carrie has a hallucination that she saw the ghost of lovers past. Gets a little quirky about it. Later on, Carrie and Yankee are walking back home. They call each other cute. They kiss. It's all very sweet. Also, Carrie has not taken off the fur coat this entire episode. She still has it on. I think I would call that a capsule closet. We love a money-saving queen. Later at breakfast brunch, the girls are finding Carrie in the newsletter. Miranda's trying to distract herself with her Palm Pilot and asks if they can talk about something that is not big. Miranda actually, like, stands up about this, gives the speech of a lifetime.
How does it happen that 4 such smart women have nothing to talk about but boyfriends? It's like 7th grade with bank accounts. What about us? What we think, we feel, we know. Christ.
And then she puts on this fucking beanie. Can we have a moment with this beanie? Afterwards, Carrie and Charlotte go shopping. Sam is very desperately trying to make things work with James, and it's a great marathon with nothing working in her favor. Charlotte is late at night at her place with Paul, and she gives him some, like, Barney's brand briefs. He takes it wrong, but also I would too. Later on, we actually have a time skip to Miranda wearing this outfit, and she actually ends up spotting her formerly deceased in her heart, Eric, from earlier in the episode, and actually sees that he has stayed with his mistress 3 years later. Afterwards, at a bar, Carrie is with Mr. Yankee, and he is showing Carrie how to catch nuts in the air. We love all of these analogies. And guess what? She beats the hallucination accusations because at that bar is Mr. Big. She feels confident. She's sexy, she has arm candy, and Big saw her picture in the paper. And he's a fan of the Yankees. She has it all, but one touch to her shoulder, it is over for everyone everywhere. Carrie ends up kissing the Yankee in the streets, but she just gets overwhelmed and she starts crying. I actually kind of feel bad for her. And she just admits that she isn't ready for a relationship yet. Carrie is on the phone. We get like the funniest fake out in the world where we think that she's gonna talk to Big, but it turns out she's just meeting Miranda at a restaurant. Does this feel like it's so coded, like 2 ex-lovers finding solace in one another? Possibly. Episode 2, The Awful Truth. Carrie spins us this little tale about her friend Susan Sharon, who's basically married to an abusive. She gets brought back to Susan's apartment, and Richard, her doting husband, is still sleeping. But Susan doesn't care because she's there with Carrie to give her a birthday gift. Richard wakes up, he's screaming. I feel, watching it made me feel like I was a child watching 2 divorced parents. Back home, Susan calls to apologize, calls it a classic move, and this woman is very clearly unhappy. And Susan asks, if Carrie was with a guy like that, what would she do? We all know what Carrie would do. Okay, look, this episode is all about Carrie, like, not knowing if she should tell Susan to dump her husband. Like, put that scenario in the current year, and I'm telling Susan to sleep at my place. Later on, Charlotte at brunch says that honesty is more important in a relationship, and I won't notch her for that because, like, she wasn't there to see the fight, so, like, she doesn't really know what's going on. Sam confesses that she hasn't done it with her toothpick of a boyfriend in 3 weeks, and Miranda's in a relationship right now, otherwise known as Eric Melman. What is that last name? Also, I'm letting Skipper off of here. He's not relevant. Sorry for his photo. This is the only one I could get. He is a spring roll kind of guy. He enjoys dirty talk as well. Many interests. He's dynamic. Also, apparently Miranda likes it quiet because since she yells as a lawyer all the time, she likes some peace and quiet, and I respect that. Later on, shopping with Susan, she tells Carrie that she actually did call her husband an ass. He said nasty things to her in return. She said nasty things back to him. And Carrie worries that she said too much to have led into this all happening. But also, this ends up with Susan asking to squat at Carrie's. No good deed goes unpunished, as some sexy educates would say. Sam is with James. She feels like she can't be open with him, and he suggests a couples counselor. You gotta fight for your love, girl, and if it ain't worth fighting, maybe don't stay. Miranda later on with her man tries to talk it out. She is saying words, and she's not very good at it, but it works, so good for her. Also, Charlotte has a dog. This is not relevant. Susan and Carrie are later on at Charlotte's. Susan is very much waiting for a phone call from her abusive husband of a man. And Carrie, please read the red flags. Back at home, Carrie gets like this massive bouquet of roses. And it's a birthday gift from Big, with best wishes on it. Charlotte later on calls it a grand gesture, which means that she should consider getting back with Big. Carrie calls him vague, and she's right about it. And she's actually being an adult. Except she's not, because she ends up calling him. She says thank you. Big says that his secretary alerted him that her birthday was coming up. How romantic. And she invites him to her birthday party. She regrets it. He awkwardly accepts, and it's not very meet cute. Samantha's very uncomfortable at therapy, by the way. She cannot admit length, width, circumference, nothing. But at the very last second, she spills. And then he calls her too big. Miranda is back into bed with her novel, and she starts talking, and mentions a finger going somewhere, and maybe he's not as cool as we thought he was. At Carrie's birthday, Stanford says that he has no need for Crisco, and everyone laughs. I believe it. You can't be bald and a bottom. Big later pops in. He introduces Jack, who is a friend of his, and Carrie is like a little bit too relieved. He overstays for a belly dance, walks out with Carrie, and she watches him get into his car. She is not over him, and Jazz plays longingly as she walks down the street back to her empty apartment. Also, Charlotte's dog shits on her bed, and she gave the dog away to Susan and Richard, and it saves their marriage, I guess. Episode 3, The Freak Show. Let's talk first dates. Carrie calls Friday nights at every Manhattan bar its own Ellis Island, and we love a woman who knows American history. Also, Sam is on a first date with a litigator, Harrison. He's giving American Psycho too. He's dirty talking, he's using legal jargon. If he were an animate object, he would be a Tumblr sexy man, and calls Sam an older woman, giving us a nice round 45 as her age. Samantha gets very messy after crying, and opens the world's first BDSM closet, to which he's inside and locked up and chained on his own. How did he get in there? Who did that to him? Rookie mistake, by the way. Let her tell you first. At a dinner for a book, Samantha ends up spilling it, and Miranda says that the hardest part of a date is the amount of freaks that are out there. Miranda would have loved to have known what people are doing on Tinder right now. Also, Charlotte finds out that she's dating Mr. Kitten. This man actually is a freak, by the way. After she finds this out, the girls are leaving the bathroom altogether, and he's making eye contact while tonguing an oyster, and I don't want this man anywhere near a Whole Foods every Friday. We later get a marathon of Carrie going out with many men, one who's watched over 500 movies on Letterboxd, a guy who learned about social distancing in the year 1999, and a man who could have gotten Carrie free makeup at Sephora. Carrie later on ends up having a meet cute with dark academia Beck, wire frames, tousled hair, wool jacket, and he happens to think that women are as much of freaks as men. But he also asks her out for a not dinner, and I can't say I'm not hooked. Carrie's non-date is over, and we get a non-kiss. Maybe the men on the show are not ugly, and I just only like bookish people. Samantha meets an old friend, Monica, who got the first BBT, Brazilian butt transfer. Move your fat from cheek to cheek. Samantha's convinced though. She even gets the fat sucked out of her a week later. Samantha afterwards ends up catching up with her surgeon, who, by the way, gives her a list of extra surgeries that she does not need. This woman is beautiful, leave her alone. And she literally starts crying. Samantha, stand up. Charlotte later on at girls' night says that she wants to make it serious with Mitch. I would like to bring back her addiction to her rabbit. This is a recurring trend. But at a date with him later on in the episode, she actually tries to have a conversation with him, and this man literally does not have a single word to say. He does not speak a single line this entire episode. He just tongues a fig. Please, sir, a wasp died in there. Have some respect. Double dating with Carrie and Samantha. Miranda's date is one of Beck's friends, who apparently has never left New York in his entire life. Carrie, however, does not let Miranda use her safe word to escape the really bad date. And Miranda drops some sage advice. Who are our friends, if not reflections of us? It very much gets to Carrie. So much, actually, that she asks Beck if he has anything weird going on, and he shows, like, a Tweety bird tattoo on his shoulder that, like, is very clearly a fake, like, tattoo that they slapped on there. It's like peeling. Dipping into it the morning after, he leaves early morning and Carrie is still at his apartment, and she actually ends up snooping through his things. Mind you, she doesn't like casually sift through his medicine cabinets. This girl is like literally ripping open drawers, pulling out clothes and dumping everything onto the floor, literally ripping open a locked wooden crate with like a knife while she has a cigarette in her hand. And now I've lost it. Carrie also realizes that she might have developed a little bit of PTSD after her time with Big, after she's left Beck's apartment. Do I connect it to Big? Absolutely. Maybe if he hadn't kept from her the fact that he was divorced then. Episode 4, they shoot single people, don't they? It is City Girls up at a salsa club. And it's honestly just vibes. Fun, laughing, dancing. Carrie is wearing like soft pink disco pants. Samantha spots a guy swatting her back. Samantha also has this quick little mention of Charlotte needing to embrace their age, which is a nice turn in comparison to last episode. Also, she keeps it a solid girls' night. She does not go out with that man. And maybe she kept in mind Miranda's teachings. Carrie mentions that she's got a magazine, article next morning that she has to go to for photos, but whoops. Her friends are enablers. She ends up watching the sunrise walking home, and stays up all morning to be asleep all afternoon. She ends up late to the shoot, and Nevin is rightly pissed off. One of the girls who's the photographer is serving office siren, and she's photographing Carrie, very obviously having found new inspiration. During a power walk with Charlotte and Miranda finds an ophthalmologist she would fake an O with. Charlotte is surprised, saying it's silly to break up with a guy who can't make her finish. Again, I would like to point out our pattern that is recurring now. But after finishing her walk, Carrie goes out to get a pack of smokes, and the worst thing possible happens. Paying for the pack, her face card declined. Single and fabulous. Anyways, the article literally just shames women who are older than 30 and still like to party and have flings. Miranda calls it a scam, and maybe our girls were already convinced. Charlotte is with her guy friend Tom, and he's a guy friend who helps her with guy problems, i.e. fixing things. And it very much makes me feel like how I did when I built my bed from IKEA from scratch. But she pulls him in for a kiss, and we have Charlotte's new weekly. Carrie ends up questioning the validity of faking who you are.
I don't understand sign language.
And this reminds me of how she feels when she loses her true self when she's around Big. Let us make connections. Use our neural pathways. But either way, it's girls' night again. There's a very concerning joke.
You know, it's really not their fault. They don't come with a manual. If I had a son, I'd teach him all about the vagina.
If you had a son, we'd call social services.
And Miranda's complaining about the O-cycle that she has created for herself with her new ophthalmologist guy. Also, later on, Miranda leaves girls' night to go out with the guy from the original girls' night, Keep Up. He is all about we. I forgot to post a photo of him because he's not we. And the entire night he tells Samantha that he will give her, time at his house in the Hamptons and that they have a future together. And Samantha falls for it for some reason. I don't understand why. It's very weird. I feel like she would know better than that. Miranda later on decides to stop faking it. And there's something very funny about this vacant stare and smile that she gives him. She just lays there and confesses she's been faking. He literally goes through a crisis of faith. And you know what? Him putting his wireframe glasses, eager to learn, won my vote. He isn't really good though. And Miranda gives him some charity. Back at Charlotte's, her actor friend Tom has decided not to leave the city for a while and is instead staying over at Charlotte's to her pleasure of having a live-in handyman for company, out of loneliness, who knows. Carrie starts to question her life in a bucket hat and 2 packs of smokes. She puts on a fabulous pink dress, drinks matching tartinis, and I wonder if she'd like an espresso martini. Later on, she's very clearly drunk and has gone through many tartinis on an empty Tuesday night. And Stanford leaves her at the club. He's not on here. I'm giving that man a red flag. You do not do that to a friend who's drunk. Later on, though, she ends up finding Jake. He is a smoker. They relate. And when he stops for a moment to pick up some more smokes, Carrie's face card has declined yet again. It has gone through the IRS and it's getting questioned. Thankfully, though, she decides that she does not need the validation of this random man, and she walks away from the guy who looks like he could be in Tony Hawk's Pro Skateboarder. All our girls get their life lesson in faking it, and Carrie instead embraces it, and she sits there at a cafe and lets the comfort of being alone linger. Episode 5, 4 Women and a Funeral. Carrie is getting her little black dress ready for Javier, designer, dead at 34. And apparently Carrie knew him and his heroine a little less. Now, Samantha shows up to Carrie's beforehand in a white and blue designer Javier. Carrie clearly does not understand how to respect a fashion designer's funeral. At the funeral, Josefina, his sister, and heir to the Javier name, is getting accused by our girls for some quickie surgeries. Do not be rude. Also, Josefina mentions that she wants to start an assistance group for people who have addictions, and Samantha wants the numbers of the addiction assistance group. Charlotte's borrowed Javier hat from Samantha flies off into the wind and off to a local widow. Charlotte, honey, the worst thing you can do is be the rebound of a dead woman's husband. Back in the car, though, Charlotte says that a widower means that he's into marriage and she can make him commit, but Carrie ends up getting touchy when she says that marriage just made Big realize that he doesn't like it. So at her apartment, Carrie is contemplating life, death, visa bills, and she calls Big. She invites him to do just the two of them Saturday at 8 o'clock. 6 seconds for 6 months of lost time. Samantha, in the meanwhile, is busy with, have him upside down, Richard Cramwell. I'm not putting him up here. He's a rich socialite, he's rich, he's wealthy, he has money, and he is a philanthropist who is very much interested into donating to her loving organization. And maybe she's just a little too into him to get past that, but his wife is not. Miranda, on the other hand, is apartment shopping, and we're not talking rental. The single woman box is getting ticked off, and so is she. Carrie says that it's because it's intimidating to see a woman who doesn't need a man. Charlotte says every woman needs a man. And she also says that this is the reason why she rents and doesn't buy, to, you know, not disrupt the power structure at hand. Men don't want a woman who's too self-sufficient. But over at brunch, Samantha is realizing that Sandy Cramwell has blacklisted her name from like everywhere in New York, which is a threat worse than death in my opinion. Charlotte ends up going on a date that night with her white widow, and he has a picture of his wife still in his wallet, his dead wife, and he shows her to Charlotte on their first date, but also Charlotte stand up. Also later that night they end up doing it while the photo of his wife is literally still on his bedside nightstand. It's not even face down. But also Charlotte very clearly likes a project, and at brunch she calls the portrait a blessing. Charlotte literally thinks that her honeypot will put life back into this man after losing one just a week ago. Carrie later on is wearing a gorgeous sequin dress and is back to meeting Big at the restaurant. She's talking death, he says he's not sure, and she thinks that she'll reincarnate. They're flirting, they're into each other, and Big's heaven is a bed apparently. But will Carrie lay in her grave after having dug it? Find out next time. The answer is no, by the way. Miranda later meets her neighbors for her new apartment. She learns more about poor Ruthie passing.
Oh yes. It was a week before anyone realized she passed. Rumor has it the cat ate half her face.
Cats ate her face. But later on, Miranda nearly meets God after choking on some Chinese food. And I can't even lie, this is actually my biggest fear whenever I'm home alone. Miranda's literally on the verge of losing it, this poor girl. And she goes through this entire cycle of realizing that she's actually alone. And I don't think this is helping her at all. The next day, she actually almost ends up running into a taxi by walking off of the sidewalk and almost passing out because my girl is having a panic attack. She talks it out with Carrie, says that she's scared about being alone. It's really starting to get to her, especially now that she bought an apartment and is officially alone. Carrie says she'll always be Miranda's emergency contact and that she'll always be there for her, even if she screams. Charlotte later on is at the widow's grave, ready to have a loving ceremony in her honor. And her honor, turns out he's already been out and about for a while. Later on, Samantha goes to a woman named Shippy Shipman for penance. And turns out even the women she's seeking help from know about her history. No one's a girl's girl in New York, apparently, if you're a higher socialite. But literally, get this. After having been blacklisted from everything and just succumbing to helping Javier House, because this poor woman has nothing else to do, she gets her reputation saved by Leonardo DiCaprio after having been caught with him at Javier House. Samantha, you are not 25. That man is ignoring you. Also, back at Carrie's, we find out that she's been playing the long game with Big, and after he drops in to check on her, she takes him to a bowling alley. She's serving real 1970s cool girl casual tank top cherry soda realness here. Do I think they're cute here? Do not ask me that. But either way, our favorite couple is back together. Episode 6, The Cheating Curve. So, let's talk Charlotte's art gallery. First of all, it's filmed to the brim with lesbians. Second of all, how do you exactly run an art gallery? Because I would love to know. Anyways, we have the best combination of lesbian chic, and Charlotte is attending her own gallery with Garen Davis, who owns a downtown restaurant. Miranda, in the meantime, is with Ethan Watson, who is a documentary filmmaker. And Carrie's back with Samantha. Samantha ends up spotting a trainer from her gym, and she very much wants to get back on the prowl. Samantha, however, before she does anything, offers Carrie a Percocet, and the last thing it can do is perk Carrie up. She gets out, and it turns out that Carrie made up a little lie to get back to Big's place. Carrie admits to knowing that the man she loves is emotionally unavailable, and yet keeps going back to him. Girl, it's over. Back at the gallery, we get 90s power lesbian. The lesbians have sold out Charlotte's show, and she tries to get extra champagne for the gallery, and she finds Garen swapping spit with the girl he spotted earlier. The next day at the outdoor market, the girls are discussing cheating. Charlotte calls the entire event cheating, and Carrie suggests that he might not have thought that kissing was cheating. Samantha says that cheating is a part of a men's biology. She's very open about cheating and thinks that it's a new wave of men, but Carrie points out that women cheat as well. Charlotte, however, thinks that it's different between men and women, where instead of being driven by testosterone, women do it for emotions, i.e. mating for life. What? They talk cheating curves, you only allow what you would do yourself, but Carrie questions that maybe cheating only counts if you're caught. Do I hear some foreshadowing? Back at her gallery, Charlotte is serving Bayonetta glasses. Office siren Coquette, she gets lured in by the same power lesbians from the night before. I do appreciate Charlotte's Prada loafers getting a call out. Like, I can't deny it, we do love good shoes. She gets invited for a drink, and she gets to experience her very first lesbian bar, lesbian dinner, and then lesbian club, and that should have been me. This should have been me. Back in the real world, though, Miranda's getting out of a movie with her letterbox boyfriend and only shuts up from like his scathing 2.5 review to head to his place to make out. During a session, he puts on some adult films. And he can't stop looking at them. He keeps his eyes open to the TV the entire time. And Miranda keeps on going. He literally gave her directions in bed to move her head. Stand up. Miranda, stand up. Okay, so we are back in the kitchen. Everybody, we are back in the big kitchen. Carrie made him fondue because the poor girl does not know how to cook. It's nasty. She confesses to him that she hasn't told her friends about being back with Big, and Big says that he's the same. Big has no friends, according to Carrie. I don't know if this is true or not, but the implication is not good. But he mentions he has interested parties. Carrie asks why he hasn't, then skirts around why she wants him to, and he says it's just better to keep everything quiet. Walking back home, though, she gets caught by Miranda on the street. They talk videotapes and that he might like our video hotties more than he likes our real ones. Carrie says that she's dressed up for laundry day because all of her other clothes are dirty, and we get our first like big friend secret. Samantha's more in the background here, having fun with her trainer. What else does he do to her other than shave her legs? And then he goes all the way up, okay. Later on, Samantha spills at Carrie's apartment that she has a new lightning bolt as a decor piece. And Charlotte shows up dressed up and prepped for her lesbian friends later that night. Dressed up, happy, elated. the impact of lesbians. They say that Charlotte should get out of the closet, and I think the real joke here is the idea that any of these lesbians would think that Charlotte is straight. Like, she wore capris with loafers. Also, side note, in the bathroom, Carrie's diaphragm gets stuck, and Sam's the only one that actually helps her out to get it out. Later on, Charlotte ends up meeting the lesbian queen Patty. She's got a glass of champagne in one hand and a tit in the other. Charlotte, however, gets booted from the Isle of Sapphos when she tells the truth. Miranda, however, does stand up, and she ditches her guy after he can't stop looking at his girls. Later on that night, Carrie and Big are out dancing, and she asks him just straight up, why did they break up? Were you not there? He didn't say what she wanted to hear, and she doesn't really know if he can love anyone but himself. So Carrie lies through her teeth and just says that she was just afraid, and he says that he misses her. Is this a happy ending? Episode 7, The Chicken Dance. So Miranda has a guest coming out of state soon, and Charlotte recommended for her designer friend Madeline to decorate for her. Ray Dunn, count your fucking days. Jeremy has been international in London, and he's actually beginning to look for work in New York. Great news for Miranda, and that's actually also why she's letting him Airbnb at her apartment. Over back at Big's, Carrie needs a spare toothbrush, and he gives her the pink one. Calls it an important step in their meeting. I feel like she is scrambling for something that can show that he loves her. However, back at Miranda's, Jeremy is there. He says that he's tired of relationships, and then he meets Madeline while she's holding up a statue of frogs. It's their meet cute, not Miranda's. The girl also goes third wheeling on their first date that should have been hers, but also simultaneously pick up the signs, maybe stand up a little bit for yourself, you know? Maybe get a clue. Is she bitter? Yes. Does it make me sad for her? Also yes. A week later, it's Jeremy's going away party, and while Jeremy is toasting a miracle, he announces that he's engaged to Madeline. Miranda. On this episode of The Brownstone, our girls are discussing early engagements and relationship stepping stones. Miranda feels very much invisible. Our poor girl is going through it every damn episode. Carrie later on calls Big. They vaguely flirt on the phone. She's asking if he believes in love at first sight, but he only believes in lust at first sight. Our girl is starting to question him. Later on, Carrie's with Madeline at an upcoming wedding venue, and Miranda gets picked up to help with the guest book. Charlotte is the bridesmaid, where it turns out she picked a very sexy backless dress. And Carrie is going to read something at the wedding. At a restaurant, while the girls talk, it turns out that Samantha forgoed her scorched earth rhetoric, and she accidentally slept with the guy that she's already slept with before 15 years ago. I think it's weirder that he remembered her than her not remembering him. It was 15 years ago. Back at Big's, Carrie is trying to come up with something to say, and Big says that he actually wants to go to the wedding with Carrie. A big step up? Who knows? It's day of the wedding, and Carrie, oh my god, she is wearing a spring 1999 pink Donna Karan, and oh my god. However, Carrie and Big get into like some awkward air when he finds out that his name was added to the invite list instead of just being Carrie's +1, and he gets confused as to how exactly they know his name. He literally doesn't even want to sign the card, and things are beginning to boil up. Charlotte later on arrives to the wedding in a beautiful Anna Molinari, and she is giving her all. Not wearing white to a wedding? Let's talk about not wearing a halter to a wedding, because oh my god. She also ends up finding out that she's gonna be with generic hot guy 10. I forgot to write his name, as he is one of the groomsmen. And while they go off to dance to their song, the bride and groom are here. Apparently their wedding was planned in 4 weeks. I would rather roll over, but to each their own. The people are talking. Miranda is partaking in the peanut gallery, and our beautiful Madeline in her turtleneck calls Carrie up to the scene. It's time for our poetry. She pulls it out of her dress and starts it off. And Carrie is not keeping it together on stage. Charlotte is hitting it off with generic guy 10, and they go off to dance to their song. Big comes back, and when she suggests a dance to make it better, Big declines because he doesn't like to dance while people are eating. I don't like his excuses. Upstairs, Charlotte and her guy are prepping the honeymoon suite, which is apparently in the same building as they're doing the ceremony. That feels weird to me. Right down to the christening. But when it's over and she's doubted herself about having overstepped, She gets to meet his parents. Hawkeye's dad offers to dance with Charlotte, and he puts a hand where it shouldn't be. And when Charlotte tells Hawkeye 10, he calls her a slut. Coming back from helping Miranda put all the gifts in the van, Carrie finds Big waiting for her in the hallway. She tells him that she's still mad about the card. Big is trying to kid around it, and Carrie's worried that Big can't even be her entirely for a single day. The bouquet toss happens.
Everybody ready?
1, 2, 3. Okay, girl, see you tomorrow.
Carrie ends up leaving with Big, knowing she'll get her wedding cake with Big, but she might not get to eat it too. Hi, it's tomorrow. I recorded for almost 6 hours before the sun was able to go down, and I have a new gust of wind in me. You might be saying to yourself, Valerie, is it even possible to slay 2 days in a row? You're looking at it. So, on to the next episode. Episode 8, The Man, the Myth, the Viagra. So we officially have Carrie and Big together. We see them on, I would say our very first, official date with them. And so they're at an Italian restaurant. Big is a regular there. It's all very cute. They're laughing, they're frolicking. They're enjoying these fake grapes that are hanging from the ceiling. They're enjoying the ambiance. And Big even calls Carrie his girlfriend, which I would say is a huge, massive step for the two of them, as sad as that is. A little late, but better than never. Big even serenades Carrie. When I was 17, it was a very good year. I don't know what this song is. When I was 17, I had my first love. So our girl Miranda is at a comedy club with a guy who looks very much like he would have paid to get a blue checkmark on Twitter. But at least Ellen Miller, who's with her at the club, is on the same level as her, and honestly, what else could we ask for? He leaves in the middle of a scene to go to the bathroom, gets phone call, guy at the comedy stand ends up heckling Miranda so that way she'll answer, and guess who it is? His wife. Miranda is publicly humiliated. Thanks, I guess. So over at brunch, Miranda's telling the girls that she asked him how many years has he been divorced, and that he just lied on the spot to her. Did not even tell her that he was still with his wife. Apparently they're separated. Charlotte, however, does end up telling us the story of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a cousin who did get with a guy who was married, but that guy left his wife for her. Charlotte, you're going to be changing your opinion about that story real soon. But the girls start to critique it because every single story is about a man who can't commit, takes place in the rain, and they find their happily ever after. Charlotte says she even knows someone who went through this miracle. Carrie. Charlotte, get a grip. So Samantha and Miranda just kind of laugh it off. And Carrie is once again lost in thought and a smoke. If there's one thing this girl does, it is think. So Samantha is at a bar and oh my god! How many people were scared? I was really, really scared. A silver fox comes up to Samantha and they start flirting it up. He offers Sam a Long Island, then an island. Ed, as we know him, is single and a multi-millionaire. What's your limit for an older guy? I don't... But either way, Samantha's limit is a young 72. Okay, we move to the kitchen, and there's a mini VCR TV in there. Interesting. Carrie asks Big to get to know her friends, and she suggests for all of them to hang out together, so that way they can all get to know each other at the restaurant called Denial. Don't you love the show's subtlety? Either way, despite how much Carrie wants for Big to know her friends and her friends to know Big, Carrie is still kind of forgetting about them. She's not really giving them as much attention as she should. Because guess what happens? Miranda gets stood up by Carrie, and Carrie did not call her in advance. Our girl Miranda is rightfully mad, and she's stuck at the bar, but guess who we see? Steve. As you can tell, I'm a fan of him for the moment. He's reading, he has wire frames. Miranda's asking him, what's so funny? He's a little too charming for his own good, in my opinion, based off the actor. And I feel like somewhere in this I could put a red flag, but I'm too blinded to actually figure out where. But here's the problem. Steve is all for Miranda, but Miranda's not feeling it. She doesn't like the nice guy act. She doesn't like his personality. She hates him, she hates him, she hates him. Except the problem is that after their first date, Steve is all up for her and Miranda is denying all of it. She's much too busy setting up her alarm for the morning to even try to get a second date with him. She actually says to him verbatim, you don't have to do this. Like, she does not want to believe that Steve is into her. Like, I'm not gonna put a flag, but Miranda's at a very low point right now in her self-esteem. Later on, Samantha's having her dinner with Ed. She's getting fancy tennis bracelets, lots and lots of gifts. I love how she reacts, very humble. And later on, after dinner, she even gets flirted on. But is she willing? After literally like one sip of alcohol, he says he wants to make the whole thing worth her while with a bottle of Viagra and some old man ass. But Samantha skedaddles and there is a maid waiting for her. This has happened more than once and I get it. But back to Miranda. Guess who shows up at her apartment? Steve. Also, his last name is Brady. Why did I forget that? Why did I forget about that for the later seasons? Either way, Steve shows up. He says he likes her, and Miranda just keeps trying to push him away. I don't like that he's pushy, but at the same time, Miranda very much is giving miserable right now. He wants dinner. She says she doesn't even know him. And after fessing to like having a date over at Denial and giving a fake time, which Steve then clocks her for it, she gives him the real time. And was that a smile? So, showing up to Biggs in Carrie's very favorite gold dress. Big is wearing sandals and doubt. He asks if it's okay for him to not go, despite seeing how important this is to Carrie, despite the fact that you did not tell Carrie before she got ready, despite the fact that he let Carrie go get either a taxi that was too expensive or walk over to his apartment and then knock on his door and get the answer then that he didn't want to go. Will Carrie ever get a grip? But we're back at Denial. Carrie is not sure that Bill will even try to make it, but Steve did. And Miranda is very much being rude and keeps trying to push him away. She is in a terrible cycle of self-sabotage, to be quite honest. But thankfully, Stevie calls her out on it. Miranda, please, you deserve at least some love and respect. But right when Carrie's about to call it quits, there is her knight in a shining blue necktie. And it's enough for Miranda to get out of Denial into the rain and kiss Stevie while he's trying to walk away. Why is he walking so slow? Episode 9, Old Dogs, New Dicks. Can I say that? The women in New York. New York. They are the most beautiful women in New York. Did I ever mention I got complimented when I was in New York? Did I mention that? Whole point of that intro is that Big is still checking out women while he's with Carrie, and she's standing next to him. So Samantha and Carrie are chatting it up. Samantha again relays her thing about like cheating being in men's genetics, and she just says that you just can't change men. It's just like the title, Carrie. But Carrie wants to alter and nudge, and all I could say is that that will lead to disaster. Miranda, on the other hand, is dealing with an entirely brand new schedule because no lawyer should have to put up with Stevie's I'm at home all day and then I work at night and don't get off until 5 in the morning routine. But she's still trying and she can't keep her eyes open when he actually does come back to her apartment. Our girl Charlotte is with Mike, the blurriest man in the world, and he calls her a 5-whisk woman. And she finds out that he has another chef's hat. Charlotte is starting to question it. Like, she's very unsure about it. Is it that big of a deal? Is it that bad? She calls it a wasp thing. Is it? Oh, actually, no, that one does make sense. However, I do think it's very funny that Samantha says that out of all the men that she slept with, only 5 of them carried their own turtleneck. Only 5? What is going on? Later on a date with Big, Carrie's realizing that he's still giving a lot of women eyes. And he's smoking a cigar that I, really hate, and he's making a complete ass of himself because he wants to still smoke in the restaurant even though the waitress told him that he cannot smoke in the restaurant. Please be more kind and courteous to people's lungs. He even walks up to every table to be like, oh, it's my final day, will you let me smoke? Get out of here. Can you change, man? Don't ask a lesbian. Okay, I will say though that I am kind of obsessed with Charlotte's storyline, which is literally just peer pressuring her current boyfriend or date or whatever to get surgery, go through the operation. He realizes that he's really happy no longer having an extra sleeve and that he must share it with the world. I feel like I can't even be mad. There's something in here going on. The girls are over at Drag Queen Bingo. I wish I got an invite. I would like to go. Either way, Miranda says that she cannot stand Steve's cuddling. Charlotte thinks it's a dream. And the girls are pointing out something very real. Why should a woman be expected to adapt for a man instead of the other way around? Charlotte thinks it's because women are more adaptable, but you convinced a man to go through surgery for you. I don't think you're adapting. Sammy finds out that one of her exes is now a drag queen. Good for her. So we get another Big and Carrie date. Big is an hour and a half late. Not good. And to quote Mike's Mike, again, Carrie is very pissed off. And she even asks Big for a key to his apartment, and he kind of skirts around it. So we get this whole thing where it's the middle of the night because they didn't do anything together. They just slept in the same bed. Big is rolling around, pushes Carrie off of the bed on accident. She wakes up. He wakes up because he hears her. And then her reaction is to punch him in the eye. Girl, use your words. And she does later on. It all comes out. The women, the apartment key, the fact that Carrie can never really tell how he feels, and that she feels like nothing has changed. Miranda later that night also tries to seduce Steve on her own. It's all very cute. Steve's reaction is very much Matthew Lillard as Shaggy. He falls asleep on her bed and she suggests that he sleep at his place. Our girl is type A and Steve does not like to feel excluded. We're later back on with Carrie. We find out that after a week without having calls, Big actually ends up showing up at Carrie's apartment with a black eye, and they start talking and they negotiate it. Keys, and in return Carrie will not eat oranges on his bed. I do agree with that. What kind of animal are you to eat oranges in your bed? He ends up sleeping the night over at her place. Carrie's narration says that the fact that they're talking about change, even if they never change, is a good step. Also, side note, the episode ends with Miranda getting a phone call from Steve, and it is like the most romantic thing in the world, where he calls her from outside the bar just so that way they can look at the moon together. Maybe love is real. Episode 10, the caste system. Okay, you guys, brace yourself. It's an episode that discusses classism from the 90s. It's springtime in New York. Carrie has flat ironed her hair. It's kind of a look, I won't lie. I like her curly hair, but there's just something about those highlights that make her slay a little bit harder than normal. But either way, Carrie is discussing with the girls how she wants to say the L word, lesbians. She wants to say it once at breakfast, once when they're at a play, and last Friday night when he went to pick her up for dinner. He's over at her place, he's picking her up, and he has a nice little gift for her. A Swarovski Crystal Swan Mina de Rey clutch by Judith Lieber. Carrie, you are holding 2 months of rent in your hand. Do not act disgusted. But at brunch, Carrie is spilling it all to our girls that she said to Big, I love you, and that Big pretended that she did not say that. But also, Carrie's giving him a time span of about a week before things actually start to go sour in the relationship for him to actually react. Miranda, however, for the first time is an optimist. That is just the power of Steve, I guess. And we actually come back to them. Narration tells us that Miranda has been trying to go to places that she knows that Steve can afford on his budget, which means $5 for 2 slices of pizza and 2 sodas. It gave me whiplash.
How much? $5.90. Oh!
Miranda, when they're sitting outside, ends up bringing up that at her firm there will be a get-together. She wants Stevie to come, and that he should wear a suit. He has corduroy. And later on, to show her the outfit, he also shows her her apartment. My friends live there. 4 people splitting the rent $800 each. We're back with the girls. They're all together at this, like, notorious bench scene over at a manicure station. If I enter a salon and they have to make me sit next to someone without a boundary of an armrest, I'm leaving. But the girls get to talking. Charlotte says that it's normal for men to make more money than women. The thing about Charlotte is she just says things with her whole chest. Like, there's no nuance. It's just her saying these things. Miranda, however, does feel guilt because she makes more money than Steve, and she thinks it might be impeding on their relationship. So Charlotte brings up class, and this ends up making Samantha talk about a guy that she's seeing right now named Harvey, who apparently has a servant. Why are we using that word to describe an Asian housekeeper? Come back to our favorite couple, Carrie and Big. They are out on a date. She has a feeling that he's gonna say that he loves her. Those 3 little words, lesbians. And he ends up bringing up the purse. She can return it if she does not like it. Charlotte is over at her gallery and she ends up meeting Wiley, who is a notorious it boy for the moment. He confuses a fire hydrant for a piece of art. This feels very akin to that, what was it, the banana taped him on the wall. It jump cuts to them making out in the back of his car. He pisses on the side of the road, and Charlotte just thinks that it's like a cute thing of him to do. She does actually end up giving Carrie a phone call. Carrie tells her to get the hell out of there. Charlotte, however, does not listen. We get a moment where we find out that Harvey's housemaid Dim does not like when women stay over. She might be a little bit jealous. And then we also get a cut to Miranda taking Stevie out shopping. He's very much awkward about it. Also, the jacket that he's wearing is $1,800. And he's very much not willing to let Miranda pay. I don't like that he's doing that. I think he's very much being a man about it, but also simultaneously, like, Miranda, why was your first thought to get him a jacket that cost $1,800? I don't understand the logic. So Carrie and Big are at a party thrown by Serena Bush, who has tits the likes of which I have never seen before. This woman is stunning in her dress, but also I feel like everyone's just kind of giving looks this day, because Carrie has this whole, like, Carrie is walking around with her hair that's like freshly ironed. She literally looks like a poster girl for indie sleaze, and it is a fucking look. Look at her. Also, all of the girls have their little Swarovski clutches in tow, and Carrie's starting to realize that maybe Big actually knows nothing about her, and he didn't even get the clutch because he thought of her. Maybe someone suggested it to him. Would not surprise me. And she is very much having an attitude in someone else's home. Girl, you do not smoke inside of a stranger's house. What is wrong with you? But either way, she is out on the terrace because of her smoking. She is in Jean Paul Gaultier, and that's where she sees her old friend, Jeremiah. He ends up showing her his Happy Trail tattoo. She's bent over like 90 degrees to look at it. Why are you acting that way on someone's terrace at a stranger's house, Carrie? However, Serena catches them, and then she later spreads the word at her own party. She ends up spilling it to Big. Big confronts Carrie, but like in a very joking manner. Carrie does not respond as positively. Big calls Carrie out, saying that she's embarrassing him. And I hate to say this, but I'm kind of on his side. This feels like a party where he's with people who are clients and like work people. Like maybe you kind of are embarrassing a little bit, Carrie. Like maybe you are a little bit cringe, Carrie. Same day, Steve arrives to Miranda's apartment. He is, first of all, late for them to go together. And he's also there not dressed in the suit because he's there to return it, and says that maybe they're not good together because there's always just going to be things that he can't afford that she can. Look, the only thing I'll say is that maybe Steve should swallow his pride just a little bit, and maybe don't show up late to tell someone that you're not going to an event. Charlotte also ends up experiencing public pop for the first time. This man is extremely nasty, disgusting. Put your finger where? Back with Carrie, however, she is drunk, she is laughing, and she is very much kissing Jeremiah. Turns out, though, they actually don't do anything. She gets a phone call from Big that morning after. He tells her he loves her, and she says that nothing counts before I love you. Are you going to go off with someone every time something does not go your way, Carrie? Episode 11, Evolution. So Miranda's at the gyno a la Barbie movie, and she is there because she's going off the pill. Because guess what? She's no longer with Steve. And also, guess who has a lazy ovary? Mazel tov. At girls' brunch, they're all discussing tilted uteruses, male gynos, and Carrie's go bag. Very important. We're discussing what a girl should be able to leave behind at a man's house to stake her claim. Maybe, pee a little around the corners to, show some territory. And listen, all I can say is that dependent on what you find in a man's bathroom shows how run through he is. Miranda says that she found a scrunchie at Stevie's once, and I will let you know, Sandy Ling is doing an amazing job bringing those back. Maybe don't judge Miranda. Charlotte says that she found someone's underwear as a parting gift, and Carrie likes to keep whatever gets left behind. I kind of like that for her. That feels very Carrie-coded. Also, Carrie wants to leave a couple of things at Big's over time. She leaves a travel hair dryer, a hairbrush, perfume, lotion, makeup remover, skincare. Girl, at least be subtle. In the meantime, however, Charlotte is going out with Stephen, who is a well-known gay chef who likes to say the phrase cat's pajamas, and I kind of love him for that. The moment that he's hauling a cab for Charlotte, he ends up kissing her. Also, they're playing this game later on at a bar, the girls, where they're discussing Steven.
Well, it's not that simple anymore. The real question is he a straight gay man? Or is he a gay straight man?
But don't worry. The episode discussing sexuality is coming up real soon. In the meantime, though, Carrie brings up that her purse is very tiny and petite, just like she is. And that means that there's no need for a go bag because she has everything now over at Big's. And that means she left everything there, including a number 2. Okay, Charlotte, however, thinks that means that it's the end of romance. You can't do that with a man, otherwise he'll stop looking at you like his girlfriend. Samantha is later on sent over a drink by a man who looks like this. And apparently this is the only man that she's ever really loved. Lest we forget James, may he rest in peace. Apparently, though, what ended up happening was that he dumped her for an Icelandic model, and Samantha's just never really been over it. However, she does chase after him. Girl, stand up. Back at Carrie's apartment over with Big. Big actually ends up bringing back all of the things that she left. Again, maybe be a little more subtle next time. But she ends up explaining the whole situation while serving absolute body, that she wants to leave things behind, and she asks him, how should two people in a relationship manage this? She has her place, he has his. That's his favorite solution. They also use Woody Allen as an example. Maybe let's not do that. Charlotte is on a date with the world's first ever bisexual man without a mustache. It's hot, it's heavy. However, the fact that he knows that her dress is Cynthia Rowley is just too much for her to handle. We're discussing later on with Samantha about what it means to be in a relationship in the modern day. Samantha is still out with this nothing man who's never even heard of what a face card is. And apparently Samantha is out for him because she wants revenge. It's a revenge date with a revenge dress with revenge midnight activities. Over at the restaurant, she actually ends up learning that he got divorced by the Icelandic model Anka. She's taking the boat with her. I wish her the best. However, later on that week, Charlotte is still very nervous about Stefan, Steph, and Steven. So much so that when they're out at his little bakery cafe area, she calls in Carrie and Stanford, and he is literally just such a polite and kind man. They literally just cannot handle it. They don't know what to do with it. Your pastries are too delicious. Your swag is too different. Your girl is too biphobic. They'll kill you. Also, in the meantime, Miranda's on a date with Joseph Adler. He has very noticeable plugs in his head, but I will not be mean this time. I get it. The disgusting things they never thought they would do. Miranda brings up that she never thought about freezing her eggs before, and this makes him very mad for some reason. Later that same night, Charlotte is still with her man. She's also trying to sleep with her man. However, she does end up asking him if he's ever been with a man. He says no. He says that he's straight. They sleep together. Hooray, I guess. I cannot show it, but it's edited the way you would edit a rave. That morning, Charlotte wakes up to buttermilk scones by our favorite chef, and also to a mouse in a glue trap. Well, first of all, that is just inhumane. And two, she cannot handle being the one in the relationship that has to kill the rat. I kind of get it though. It's the way I can't be the tall one in the relationship. I'm 5'1" and I cannot reach the highest shelf on the cabinet. What are we doing? On the other hand, Samantha is still sleeping with Dominic, and that's when she ends up learning that him and Anka are getting back together, and her little revenge plan ends up failing. Carrie is at Big's. She wants to leave early to blow dry her hair, and in a drawer she finds an old photo of the two of them together. I think it's from the restaurant that we saw over in the Italian place with the fake grapes. It's very cute, it's very sweet, it's very Urban Outfitters $20 Fujifilm camera. She's always with him, whether she realizes it or not. However, it was hidden under some drawers. I don't really know how close you are, Carrie. Episode 12, La Douleur Exquisite. Do you like my French? We get a BDSM themed restaurant, you guys. You got CBT everywhere. This would have shut down in 1 week. So the girls and Stanford are all there. Charlotte kinked her hair. I love her so much. Okay, so Samantha's also very into this. She is so real for that, by the way. We learn that Charlotte believes that she has no fetish at all, and Carrie is once again serving body with her midriff. Later on that night, she goes from restaurant to Big's. They spend the night. She's in a 1920s top hat. Charlotte, in the meantime, might not actually have a fetish, but she does have a shoe kink. And she also ends up finding a shoe salesman who is more than ready for a bargain. I'd like to mention, it looks like this man works at a normal retail store, but he's offering like a 5-finger discount if he gets to see her feet. Do you not get fired if you lose too many shoes? Miranda is also out book shopping. She's at a cute little public store. It's very cute, very Parisian, in my opinion. And she's over and out with a guy named Jack. Morning after, Big tells Carrie, after telling her, oh, I'll be gone for a week in Paris, he tells Carrie that he might need to move to Paris. For a while, 7 months. Nothing really. Don't worry about it. And he's known for a really long time now.
And don't get carried away.
Miranda gets with a guy named Jack. They meet over in front of a bookstore. I literally forgot to print Jack's photo, My condolences. Is he that relevant? No. We've lost nothing. Big news for Jack, though, is that apparently he loves doing it in public places, including Mark Twain's house, in front of the alley, in the middle of the alley, somewhere between the alley. It's not going good, I would say. For Miranda, at least, because apparently they've never even done it in a bed. We're back at brunch. Carrie is, like, losing it over at that cafe, but honestly, pretty well deserved. I can't imagine a long-term partner telling me something like that they're just going to casually move. You know, just for a moment. Don't worry about it. However, concerning note is that Carrie's narration calls her and Big a S&M relationship. Girl, I just call that sexual abuse. Also, we get a whole side plot, which is that Stanford is like on proto Tinder. He's like on like some gay dating website. Those terrify me. We all know what goes on in chat rooms. However, he is on the website as Rick9+, and he has a thing for tidy whities. Carrie says a line to him after he says his username.
No, you didn't.
And it cannot leave my mind. He actually reveals to Carrie that he wants to meet his newfound lover, Big Tool for You, and he says that it's after hours in the meatpacking district. I mean, they're packing meat somewhere. And Carrie's supportive. I like it, but also the idea of sending your friend off to meet someone online proto 2010s is very scary to me. After Stanford dips, Carrie calls Big. He's over in France. She's very drunk. It's 5:30 in the morning for him. She's got too many martinis in her, and she's confronting Big about his little secret of having moved to Paris. Carrie's saying that she's thinking about them all the time. She calls him an old man. She says that she is a woman. She spills her Cosmo. He hangs up. We love a girl failure. Also, as a side note, Miranda gets like some action in the backseat of a taxi cab. This feels horrible. This is public indecency. Who is sanitizing that seat afterwards, Miranda? Later on, we get Miranda, Carrie, and Charlotte. They are walking through the street. They are discussing visiting Big in Paris. Miranda's talking about Jack like she can't even really do anything else with him other than something in public. Like she's doing it as like a task. Charlotte confesses that she might have a foot fetishist as like the guy who's selling her shoes. And after saying it out loud, she realizes she must return the shoes. Problem 1, you already wore them. So what are you trying to achieve here? Problem 2, she lets herself model for the guy in exchange for 10 more pairs of shoes for free. They give Charlotte a toe ring, and I don't like whoever directed this episode. Who directed this actor? Oh my god, okay. Okay, so we finally get ground zero. Big's kitchen. Carrie is at Big's. She has a French hat and McDonald's. She is entering the kitchen. It is go time. It is go time. He's back from Paris. She's apologizing for her behavior. She's suggesting she moved to Paris, like just to stay with Big. Excuse me? And she says something that sent shivers down my spine. Carrie should not be moving to Paris with Big just to be with Big. I think we all acknowledge that, right? We all agree with me, right? We all know that's not the thing to do, right? McDonald's is to the wall. Carrie is shouting. Also, Carrie brings up, like, Big going to other countries, i.e. putting oceans between them, as if it's, like, a choice that he's making and not literally a work trip that he mentions is something he has to do to be able to afford his nice apartment that Carrie is currently absolutely ruining with McDonald's on the wall. She, however, says it's not about work. It's about the fact that he is so scared of getting closer to her that he has to put that ocean between them. Carrie, where do you think your money is coming from to have your baby veal that you ate so that way you could stand up Miranda? Big says he does not want to talk about it anymore. Carrie says that she just wants to be in his life, but he just doesn't let her in. Sidebar to break the tension, Stanford does end up going to the meatpacking district. He goes to a club where like you have to strip down to your underwear. Do these still exist? Is this like gay culture? Am I unaware of this? Also, he looks very cute and very shy. I love this man dearly. Him and his tidy whities and his single chain necklace. He's just so awkward. Troye Sivan, you have competition. But we get back to Carrie this episode. Big is at her apartment. They do not share a single word. He spends the night, and that morning, Carrie knows it's over for them. Is she addicted to the pain of their relationship?
Girl.
But just like that, she's free. Episode 13, Games People Play. Carrie is post-breakup spring cleaning. She is dragging her friends out for a drag and a drag. She is walking. They're at restaurants. They're at home. Wherever she can, she is running this man. But at the park, she gets confronted by all three girls, and they aren't playing emotional support anymore. They're suggesting therapy. I'm agreeing. Charlotte says that her parents don't believe in therapy. And also Carrie says that she believes that therapy is too self-indulgent, which is a fucking laugh coming from this woman. Carrie brings it up to Stanford. He says that he has 3. When is your monthly bill? Carrie says that she got referred to for Ellen Greenfield, which is apparently Miss Gwyneth Paltrow's therapist. So maybe I'm a little less optimistic now. I don't trust how dark the therapist's eyebrows are. Carrie doesn't want to talk about Big. She's not sure if she believes in therapy. She says that out loud, which I get. She says that she's all about solving her own problems, but like, girl, are you? Carrie says that whenever she was with Big, she felt like she was playing games, but just never really knew what the rules were. His aura is like here. Big is gonna be here spiritually on the side in France. I'm still putting the red flags though. The therapist asked her, does Carrie go after men who are unavailable? Is she a game player? Does she play games? Is she someone who plays games? Miranda, in the meantime, however, is dealing with her own little issue. She has a peeper across the street or window. I don't know how like buildings in New York work. Why is there a window so close to yours? But he is looking her up and down. She is playing it cute and flirty. The little detail might get slipped in while the girls are walking at night, and Carrie ends up giving Gwyneth Paltrow's therapist a 1-star review. Charlotte, however, says that you can only date by playing games. And then Samantha says that the only way that you can control men is by like being in bed with them. This isn't good advice, people. The girls end up over at happy hour for a sports bar, and it's all you can drink. And it's all you can eat. Every female's fantasy. Honey, I see that and I'm running. Are the lesbian jokes getting too tired, people? Am I saying that I love women too much? Samantha does, however, end up finding her prey, whose mood is very much dependent on whether his favorite team is winning. So in the meantime, Carrie is in her little like questioning phase, like, are honest relationships even real? Like, this really does feel like something that like a freshly out of like a 1-year relationship like 19-year-old would say. Like, Carrie, you are a publishing, like your words are getting published into a newsletter. Like, are people actually enjoying this? I mean, I am. So next day, Carrie's at her appointment. She's still kind of doubting herself a little bit, but on the third appointment, she scopes out another frequent named Seth. Seth is there. He's been celebrating nearly a year now with Gwyneth Paltrow's therapist. I wonder if after 2 years he gets to meet Gwyneth Paltrow herself. My advice though, Carrie, do not date where you psychoanalyze. However, she's into him, Seth is into her, and he immediately cuts to the chase and asks Carrie out for dinner before Carrie's own appointment. Carrie's with Samantha. Samantha is being forced into actually knowing how sports work, which I think is torture in of itself. Cut it later down the line, Carrie's having a wonderful time out with Seth. They're having a lovely first date in her little pink dress. And for the first time ever, she is trying not to play games. And she said the L word. Like. Meanwhile, Miranda sees her little stalker over at the supermarket, confronts him. Turns out he was scoping out the guy above her. And once again, Miranda has been shamed and ridiculed for existing on this show. This is a very Carrie episode, however. We get her back with Seth after another date in her very cute Fendi baguette. They play Twister, which I can't lie, did make me go, oh, might have made me giggle a little bit. And they get together. But because Carrie is not playing games, that means she gets the honest truth. And what that means is that apparently the reason why Seth is seeing Gwyneth Paltrow's therapist is because once he sleeps with women, he loses absolute interest in any of them at all. And the day, Carrie knows that she's had a breakthrough and even knows that her therapist is right about her. But she doesn't go back to her therapist because she's embarrassed about Seth.
I stopped seeing Dr. G immediately. I couldn't risk the humiliation of running into Seth in the waiting room. My friends totally understand.
Do they, Carrie? Do they? Episode 14. the fuck buddy. Apparently this episode is known as the sex buddy on national television, but you can't say that during a Bravo New Year's Eve marathon. We see Skipper again, and girl help, I literally threw away his paper yesterday. I don't know where it is. We're introduced back to him. He's talking to Carrie, and we get to hearing that he gets let down gently many times, but just does not know how to take a hint. Warning, there are some implications of nice guys finish last ideologies. It's not good. Also, Carrie here looks like she's wearing a cape, and I wish it was. Can we bring them back? Miranda is currently going out with current lawyer Kevin, and they're very much like enemies to lovers to enemies, but also lovers. They're just irritated. Although I do deny Skipper's nice guys finish last character, Miranda needs to stand up because this girl is having a horrible streak with men, and it's not sitting right with me. It's not sitting right with my psyche. This whole episode is patterns. So let's discuss them. Miranda needs to stand up. Samantha is an anomaly and cannot be traced. And Charlotte is called out for placing enormous expectations on men and then dumping them the moment that they fail. And Carrie isn't even sure if she has a pattern. The evidence is unclear. Samantha is overwhelmed because her neighbors are enjoying a party, and she has no other choice than to enjoy the noise. This goes nowhere, by the way. In the meantime, Carrie is busy because she wants to contact her old ex-buddy, John McFadden. And look, I know that the last episode was not about Carrie making the best choices, but we can at least hope that it'll change this episode. Except it doesn't, because she falls for his wily charms. I don't see them, but she likes that he's reliable and that he's a boost to her sex self-esteem. Why keep it on the bench when he's a team player? Why keep picking the wrong guys, Carrie? Our girls are at yoga, out of uniform, I might add. And Charlotte says that she's never heard of the buddy system before. She gets explained to very loudly, I might add. And for the very first time ever, Charlotte decides to actually ask a guy out on her own. But let's cut this short because this episode physically ails me. Carrie asks John out for a date. He misunderstood the ask. They go out for sushi. Turns out they have very little in common. It's very awkward. He doesn't even like sushi. He's there for one reason and one reason alone, because that's the entire relationship they've been having this entire time, Carrie. Also, he gives her a calling card, and I think it's just so Y2K of him. Wow, brings back the memories. Carrie is cringe because she keeps thinking that she can make something out of nothing. We are with our girls again. Charlotte actually ends up revealing that she's double booked. Not only did she get a guy from yoga, but she also got another guy that she was really into. Good for her, I guess. Do we have to bring up again that the moment that Charlotte feels the slightest bit of freedom, she just absolutely loses it and goes overboard? Are we seeing the trend here? Kevin gets introduced to the girls. It's very concerning.
What are you doing? I don't want him going off on the waitress.
So what ends up happening is very, very, very predictable a la 90s after school program, where Charlotte not only gets caught having lied to her first date about having been sick, but also she gets caught by the first guy while she's with her second guy. And they end up running off into the sunset, going back home after sharing a taxi. I wish them the best. Miranda's out with Kevin on another date. He cannot be happy that he made partner because now he's gonna work for 60 hours for the exact same pay, except is this not what you studied to do? Is this literally not the life that you thought you would have? But don't worry, you guys. Our girl Miranda, she finally stands up. She leaves him, and then she runs back to Skipper. And now he hates her, and because of that, she loves him. Say goodbye to my imaginary Skipper photo, you guys, because this is actually the last time we see him in the show. He gets a meaningless farewell. Carrie, however, realizes that her buddy is nothing more than just that. She dumps him, and Carrie falls back into her old routine, making the same bad choices over and over and over and over. Episode 15, Shortcomings. Miranda's at the gym. She is getting her workout on. It is also family hour, but the most absurd family hour I've ever seen in my life. Do not let children run around your weight section. That is extremely dangerous. What gym is allowing for children to do this? She gets in the elevator. She sees that there is a single father with his single son. And after letting the kid push all of the buttons on the elevator because he is a maniacal maniac, they maybe sort of kind of hit it off. Back at brunch, the girls are discussing men with baggage, and more specifically, divorced men. Miranda uses the phrase, "they're like chewed gum," and I don't like that. It's feeling a little too familiar for me. We also end up hearing about Charlotte's brother, one of the very few like family members that we see. Turns out that he's visiting, and maybe Samantha's a little bit interested. But it's all because he is there right now because he has left his newfound ex, Wesley. In the meantime, Carrie is with her new guy, Bon. I kind of love his name. Why are you named Bon? He apparently is about to be photographed in GQ. In the modern day, this would be a completely different ask. He also says that he needs to drop off some books over at his family. Carrie gets a little nervous about it, but we actually end up meeting his family. And they are the most interesting people in the goddamn world. She's very nervous about meeting the Rents, but they are very, very sweet to her. And turns out they already know her. Bon's mommy loves Carrie's articles and also writes documentaries. Her husband is a professor who wants Carrie to speak because she is considered a cultural zeitgeist. Like, let it be known, she is it girl status. His sister is a lesbian named Franny, and his other sister is a fun girl named Zoe. They're cute, everyone loves Carrie, and they're invited to eat. We're back to Miranda and her ABC gum situation. They're walking through the park. His child is being a maniac. He is beating people with a comedically large stick, and he is a menace. This child is not making out of this episode unscathed. But Roger is like making my fucking blood boil because he is talking about like marriage the way that like a pick-me girl would like talk about like being in a relationship with a man. Like, oh, I'm just one of those guys who wants marriage. There's so few of me out there. It's like, shut up. Also, his kid puts a worm in Miranda's hand unprompted, and that child is gonna grow up to be a serial killer. I can feel it in my bones. Charlotte is busy baking for her brother. He's wearing a Duke shirt, and I had to look up where that is because I did not know where Duke is located. North Carolina. But anyways, he's talking about divorce, and Charlotte doesn't want to admit that divorce sometimes is necessary. After Carrie and Bon finish their time over at his family's house, which apparently was 6 hours long, they're very much into each other. Carrie's considering that foreplay, and I think it was a little overboard because Bon ends up going overboard. He gets a little too excited and the night is over. I personally never understood that. Like, Carrie is still ready. Do something. Miranda is trying to be understanding about her guy's situation. Samantha says that is a big NO. We do not do that for men. And then she also mentions that she used to sex up guys when she was 13, i.e. other 13-year-olds, to have their pool. No one was looking out for Samantha when she was a child. Also, side note, Carrie does end up hanging out with Bon's mom for a little bit, and she's very cool and very open, but also mentions that she taught her kids about sex at a very young age and that they're very open as a family. We're maybe getting a hint about something here. Side note, Miranda actually ends up spending the night over at Roger's, and she goes to his bathroom ass naked, which I feel is something you only can do if you know that either A, there is no child in the house, or 2, you know that child is asleep. And so when the kid almost opens the bathroom door on her, she slams it shut, hits his head, and gets booted out of the house. Charlotte is back with her brother. She's there to introduce him to Carrie. However, Carrie mentions that Samantha is there, and Charlotte is starting to look a little nervous. Makes me wonder. But what does this end up leading to? It leads to Samantha in his Duke shirt at Charlotte's kitchen. And she's very casual about it. I kind of love that for her. Also, Charlotte says this about Samantha.
Is your vagina in the New York City guidebooks? Because it should be. It's the hottest spot in town. It's always open.
But also, and this is my personal opinion, siblings are just like off limits as friends. Like, maybe Charlotte had a point. But the problem is though, when Charlotte's brother comes back to the kitchen, finds out what's been going on, and Samantha runs out, he runs after Sam. Charlotte, however, thinks that Wesley can go back to Leslie, and he admits that they've been in a dry spell for a hot minute. There is no Wesley and Leslie anymore, Charlie. They do end up resolving it though. What a surprise. Charlie goes to Sam's with a nice gift basket. Sam takes her apology, and it's all very nice and sweet. Also, to finish off Carrie's storyline, basically what ends up happening is that she's with Bon at her place, brings up the fact that he's getting maybe a little too excited and needs to calm down. And he very much changes routes, goes up against her, and then just brings up the fact that they have to go see his family anyways later on that day. But when they're visiting the family, discussing sex of some sort, Bond is very much on the edge, and apparently the whole family knows that it's not the only edge that he's on. Mommy Dearest tries to just laugh it off, and even offers to Carrie to talk to Bond directly, which I think would be the most horrifying thing to ever experience. However, this ends up being Carrie and Bond's mom's breakup. Sadly, that's the very last time we ever get to see Cool Mom. Also, when Carrie is walking down the street to like see her friends in a restaurant that apparently she's about to walk into, she knocks on the window like an animal. Take your hands off that damn window you just smudged. Episode 16. Was it good for you? We start the episode off with Charlotte with a doctor named Graham, and he fell asleep on her. I actually do feel really bad. She immediately calls Carrie, runs to her place. The girl is destroyed. She is doubting herself.
You are not bad in bed. Okay, I've got a constant comment and tummy Charlotte, honey, you want some tummy tamer?
Samantha, however, later on does not make this any better because she thinks that it's a Charlotte issue. She is just so boring that a man has no choice but to fall asleep. Okay, let's not be rude. Let's not be rude. However, Samantha gives the comparison that she is so good and so notorious that a pair of gay men asked if they could do a triad with her. Samantha is flattered, and honestly, I would be too. This, however, does lead to Samantha giving us the iconic, very memorable line.
Wake up! It's 2000! The new millennium won't be about sexual labels, it'll be about sexual expression. It won't matter if you're sleeping with men or women. It'll be about sleeping with individuals.
And Carrie gets to thinking. Also, while she's thinking, walking down the street, no thoughts, head empty, she actually gets hit by a guy's stray cigarette, and they end up having their own meet cute. However, it's because he threw a cigarette into the street. Use an ashtray, maybe? And she is really into smoking with him. However, I do not want to imagine what their cafe table smells like. Carrie leaves because she's late. She was already going somewhere in the first place and then took a detour to go see him. And she actually ends up giving him her real phone number. Crazy. Carrie, however, is getting very nervous because Patrick has not called her for 3 days. It's the 3-day rule. Carrie is discussing this with Miranda, who recently purchased 1,000 shred Egyptian cotton sheets. Because she's looking for some positive bedtime affirmations. Speak into existence that they will love your cotton and the men will come flocking to your bed. However, this does not stop Carrie from flocking to Patrick when she sees him while she's walking down the street after a shopping run. And he is very much giving her the cold shoulder, but for good reason. That guy that she saw him with was another man from AA, hence anonymous, and they were waiting for another meeting to start. He says that he's been there for 11 months and outright says that he should not get into a relationship until he's passed a year in AA because his sponsor does not want him to get into relationships early. Carrie, this man is telling you straight up to your face that it is a bad idea to get with him right now. Think of Gwyneth Paltrow's therapist. But either way, she goes through with it. On the first date, this man is literally describing that he has an addictive personality, and Carrie just for some reason cannot handle the fact that she did not get a kiss on the first date from this man. And then same thing on the second date, and then on the third, except she pretends to have accepted it on the third date, but she really hasn't, because then what ends up happening is that she's the one to kiss him first. Carrie, read the room. Also, this man says that he's never done anything sober with another woman in a relationship, which should be another red flag to Carrie, but we both know she's not paying attention to that. At brunch, we learn that Carrie does not want to spill about her relationship. Charlotte is still feeling insecure, and apparently Samantha fell asleep once because of Quaaludes. Okay. However, Charlotte is very eager to improve herself because she has chosen to take tantric classes. I don't know what that is. I don't plan on knowing. And also she guilts everyone else into going with her because she signed them all up. In the meantime, that same day, Samantha's getting ready to go with David and David for the first time together. Turns out, however, that as beautiful of a woman as Samantha may be, they're just not into her. Maybe it is kind of a hit to her psyche. They're not cat people, what can I say? At tantric class, Charlotte is once again serving Office Siren and journaling TikTok all at once. She is taking notes, she is ready, she is prepared. She is aware, she is looking. I can't show anything, but I can at least say that they learned a lot, and that Miranda got more than she bargained for. On another day, a week and a half into the relationship, guess who says I love you? Patrick. And also, Carrie is starting to regret convincing an alcoholic to go past his sponsor to actually make some decisions that weren't that good for him. She suggests they spend a couple of nights apart, and he ends up treating it like it's the end of the world. And to him, it really was. Because he never ended up going home. He went to a bar, got drunk, broke his sobriety, and then went outside of Carrie's brownstone to strip naked. And thank God Carrie does not go after him. But she does get a compliment while he's walking butt naked down the street. Episode 17. 20-something girls versus 30-something women. Okay, we start this whole episode off with two people named Robin and Elaine trapped in like a Brady Bunch parody that does not make sense for the rest of the episode. But the whole point of it is that we're supposed to be able to see that like their house in the Hamptons is basically relationship haunted because a bunch of people got invited, someone said the wrong thing, someone cheated on another person, and basically no one wants to be there anymore, so they offered the place to Charlotte for August. Miranda also thinks it's pathetic, but, like, has she seen how much a hotel room goes for these days? Charlotte convinces them because she says that it's the very last summer that they'll all be able to go to the Hamptons together. Charlotte, you can do that whenever you want, honey. A marriage is not the end of the world. This is also the first time that we see Samantha's hideous, absolutely disgusting PR office. There's something about 90s luxury decor that makes me, like, nauseous, like physically and emotionally. But that actually does not matter because I am here for one person and one person alone, and that is her 20-something assistant. I don't know her name. I don't care. She is iconic. She is the moment. She would do numbers on Instagram. Also, Samantha hates her enough that she fires her. Whoops. So we get the girls rushing to something called a Hampton Jitney. It's like a bus where a bunch of people get on it for some reason. I don't like that, and I also don't like that Charlotte is doing that. It feels like a very, like, anti-Charlotte thing for her to do, is get on, like, a big communal bus and all go to one place together. That's not my girl. We do, however, find out that she has her own 20-something, 27-year-old named Greg, who apparently has been going to the Hamptons since he was 6. Also, Miranda calls every 20-something very delusional. I'm running a YouTube channel and I'm trying to be an influencer / content creator, so I feel like I can't argue against her. They arrive to the house. Miranda hates it, and she also hates the bonfire that Charlotte's 27-something invites them all to. She hates the home, she hates the towels, she hates the head of the beer that Carrie gets for her from the keg that's nearby. I mean, not even Samantha's into the scene. But I also think that they're just, like, aggressively against 20-something girls this episode. We are not that crazy, y'all. I mean, we are, but things change a little, however, when Carrie ends up meeting with Laurel Harris. She's this very cute girl who is a major fan in publishing and is very much all over Carrie. It's kind of cute, actually. Like, she's just very much a fan. And she even wants Carrie to be her mentor. However, she is laying it on very heavy and does basically coerce Carrie into exchanging phone numbers. It feels like something has happened. Later on, Carrie is out with Laurel, our girl from the beach, and we find out that 1, she believes in virginity, and 2, she believes in saving it for marriage. I ask, why are you into Carrie's column? Have you not listened to everything that I've said so far about this TV show that are then turned into columns that Carrie writes? At that same party, Carrie ends up meeting another Hamptons man, otherwise known as Bradley, who, when I first saw him, I felt like his head was perfectly in the shape of a rectangle. They end up changing numbers. Laurel comes over and she says, "You've got it going on." And that's how I know she's saving it for marriage. Our girls are back at the beach, back at Hamptons. Once again, the 20-somethings lay under the sun while they lay under the shade. Tell that to my mom, who's addicted to the sun. And also, while she's there, Carrie finds Bradley the doctor. He's good on paper, so they say. Either way, Miranda leaves early to go to the grocery store. This girl is just hating it here. Why did she come back? But she did enjoy the supermarket. And lets in Carrie's guest. Girl, you do not invite yourself to someone else's Hampton home. But guess who's also there and sees an invite to Miss Nina G's Hampton hoedown? Sammy is not happy with the fact that Nina G is apparently using up her Rolodex. Laurel is very into the mood. Charlotte is not, because guess what she got? Crabs.
Oh my god.
That is not a tick. What is it?
It does give Carrie the opportunity, though, to go sleep at Bradley's place. Anyone who knows, do you have to burn the mattress? And next day is the hoedown. Carrie is like so fully into the scene, and she's actually dressed to impress. Like, she actually looks like she knew what was going on at a Hampton hoedown. But like literally, like none of the other girls are dressed. Samantha's ready to suck it up to Nina G, who just ends up actually being very into the fact that Samantha is there. Nina ends up in hot water. Nothing is going right. The fireworks are too early. And then after Charlotte breaks up with Greg, Samantha actually ends up setting up Nina and Greg together. I call that foul play. We're having a lot of fun here, and things are going pretty well. And then I hear a little voice, and who do we see? But also, Carrie literally walks up to him and says this.
Then I might have to push you in the back.
Is it you?
Like he's a ghost. It's as awkward as you can imagine. But then, who do we meet? Natasha. Beautiful, lovely, stunning Natasha. And she's with Big. And she's a 26-year-old. What's the last thing we see this episode? Carrie running off to the beach and Miranda holding her hair back while she vomits and the fireworks go off. Episode 18, X and the City. Miranda and Carrie are on the streets buying flowers. Miranda spots Stevie in his stupid basketball shorts from across the street, and immediately Miranda gets Carrie to run, except Carrie does not do a good job because she looks back. You don't look back. However, we get our daily brunch. Carrie is feeling guilty. Miranda is nervous. Samantha says that she's never had a guy friend, and Charlotte withholds friendship from men who are not good boyfriends. Carrie is questioning things. She says an incredible line.
I mean, we keep dresses we'll never wear again when we throw away our ex-boyfriends. I'm not saying that I'm any better. I mean, I'm not, I haven't been able to be friends with Big, but if you love someone and you break up, where does the love go?
And then immediately ruins it by being delusional and saying that the love that Big feels for 26-year-old Natasha is nothing like what he felt for Carrie. Like, look, I'm not saying that it's the same kind of love, but what I am saying is that there are similarities. Carrie says that she's accepted that things are over between her and Big, but the girls are still fighting for her. Let's discuss friendships with your exes. The LGBT community cannot talk about this right now. We get Steve back, and he actually confronts Miranda at her apartment, which I do not like. I do not like that one bit. But if there's one thing I can say is that I appreciate how direct he is. He's sweet and understanding. Miranda starts crying. I did tear up maybe a little bit. She says that she misses him, and he's fine with being friends. Am I giving him the benefit of the doubt because I like Steve? Maybe. Also, Charlotte's a horse girl. Apparently her old horse was sold to another family, which to me is just cruel and unusual punishment. In the meantime, Samantha is busy window shopping. She sees a guy, and we end up learning that he himself happens to be a stallion. Okay. Carrie is cleaning out her closet. She spots an old dress, which makes her call an old ex. Okay. However, Natasha is the one who answers the phone. And then Carrie immediately hangs up and tries to call again, realizing that Big has caller ID. Big, however, is the one to answer the phone this time. She asks about Natasha. Big says that she's great. And Carrie is literally fighting her demons to make this call as normal and casual as possible. She even suggests they try to be friends or something. Even suggests a lunch or something. And at that lunch, Big looks actually really nervous. To me, is a massive shift in the past 2 seasons. He also says more in 10 seconds than I think I've ever heard this man say in the goddamn show. But everything is okay because once they get their drinks, they get tipsy enough that they can actually start laughing and making fun of each other. And Carrie, however, is brave enough to ask about Natasha directly. And then immediately says that they should not talk about relationships until they're serious. And Big confesses. They're engaged. And they only knew each other for 5 months? We see Carrie leave, storm out, and trip over herself at least 5 times. Carrie, in the meantime, is at the barn with Charlotte, where Charlotte is getting a horse. Carrie is wearing $300 shoes the whole time. Girl, it is a barn. It is a stable. Do they have stables like in New York, actually? I feel like they wouldn't be very good for the horses. Also, do not insult Natasha. Our poor girl does not know what she's about to get into. To cut it short, this is Charlotte's horse girl episode. The whole point is that she used to have a horse, broke her collarbone, horse was sold, she wants another horse, gets over her fear. That's her happy ending. Why is this in this episode? What does it do for us? Good news, however, is that Steve and Miranda are back from their friendly date. And they're very, very, very cute. Was I kicking my feet while watching them? Maybe. And Steve is also still very much into Miranda. Where do friends do not make me angry. Also, we get our first concept of a situationship in the early 2000s. Bad news, however, Big is sad at his apartment. For why? He's calling Carrie to do what? Apologize? He leaves a voicemail saying that he's sorry and that he would never hurt Carrie. Carrie just ends up playing it off and hopes that one day they'll be good friends. She thinks that until she gets an engagement card in the mail. Why did Big not just tell her directly? Why is she getting a card in the mail later? She denies going to the engagement hall and ends up going to a bar instead with our girls. They bring up Hubble from The Way We Were. I never watched this movie. And they also say that Carrie and Big are just like them. She's just simply a Katie girl, not a simple girl. After the bar, Carrie is outside of the Plaza Hotel. She sees Big with Natasha in the car. Natasha is staring, and rightfully so. What is this woman doing talking to your fiance, looking a little too touchy in my opinion? But Carrie says goodbye in her own Carrie way. Why wasn't it her? Big doesn't have an answer, but she still says the line. Season 3, Episode 1, Where There's Smoke. Carrie is no longer a city girl, you guys. She is now specifically a Staten Island girl. City girls up. And currently, all of our girls are heading over to a fireman's calendar competition. Also confirmation that Carrie truly is an it girl because she's getting more and more invites to places, even more so now that she's like a judge for this competition. And also, Carrie and Charlotte are adorable. We get firefighters dancing, stripping. Sometimes I realize I am not the target demographic for this show. But Samantha is. And there, Carrie meets Bill, our judge in the town. Miranda is drinking Staten Island teas without her glasses on. We've never seen this woman with glasses on in the first place. And Charlotte is very, very, very embarrassed about being too close to the stage. Also, Miranda is denying that her and Steve are a thing. And all the while, Samantha is looking gorgeous. The girls are into Staten Island. They're living it up. They are dancing. And Samantha is on the prowl. She sees this one guy. He's a fireman. He's pre-himbo. His birthday's in October. I think he's a Libra more than he is a Scorpio. Carrie is back to smoking with Bill over at the nearby bar. And he even buys her a beer. I kind of love how like this show does not even hide anymore when someone is supposed to be a love interest. They specifically appear only with romantic intentions. Bill is very much asking Carrie out for dinner, and that means it's time to go. Except Charlotte had one too many teas, and now she's just having the best time of her life. Both at the club and at the ferry, Charlotte is saying that she will find the man of her dreams, and she will get married this year. We're back to brunch. Samantha has just rolled out of bed. We're going full Marilyn Monroe with the mole that they're drawing on her, and it is doing wonders. Charlotte says that she thinks that sleeping with a man just for the fantasy is wrong, and they're questioning what makes firemen so hot. Charlotte ends up saying her reason.
It's because women really just want to be rescued.
There it was. The sentence independent single women in their 30s are never supposed to think, let alone say out loud.
And we're kind of at that crux of like 2000s feminism, you know. Is it sad that we're our own knights? No, it's not. Miranda is making an appointment to get laser eye surgery so she can read better. And she is discussing all the details to Steve. They're kissing, it's all very fun. And he wants to be supportive, but he also just wants for them to have a label. However, we do find out that Miranda's preventing this because Carrie's the one picking her up from her eye appointment. Later on, Carrie and Charlotte are at a bar. Carrie is wearing a Bulgari 18K gold watch that right now in the year 2000 would have been sold at a whopping $18,000. You know, that money could be saved for a down payment for a house. I'm just saying. But Charlotte is on the hunt for men. This guy JJ is not taking the hint, but do not worry because Charlotte gets her white knight. Literally all he does is just throw a punch at the bar for her. And like, look, I'm all for like getting rid of annoying men, but there is something that's very scary to me about a guy in a business suit just doing that out in public. Carrie has hit her credit card limit with her Jimmy Choos, and at the steps of her brownstone, who do we see but Bill? He also says that he tried to find her phone number and it's not listed. Like, I get that the yellow books were like a thing that people could use to find other numbers, but I don't like how that sounds. I don't like the implication of you trying to find me. But he asks Carrie out. She says yes, which means she says no to picking Miranda up from her eye doctor, lest this be another habit that Carrie starts developing again. Miranda doesn't even call Steve to let him know that she needs someone to pick her up. She just goes to the eye doctor raw. But do not fret, because Carrie called Steve, and so he's actually there to take care of her. Puts her into bed with a fight, and even sleeps in the same bed as her. And maybe she's just a little bit grateful. Charlotte is currently dating her American Psycho. They're out at a restaurant. A guy bumps into her chair. This man starts throwing hands, and at the very least, all I can say is that Charlotte got the hell out of there. Samantha is in a blue fur coat over at the fire station. She is wearing a matching Nicole Miller silk dress, and she's also realizing that fire departments are not as sexy as she thought they would be. Also, they do it at the station, and I will say, Samantha mothered like never before when she wore those suspenders. People take notes. Take notes of what you saw. However, the alarm goes off, the firefighters get out, and we find out that she was wearing matching blue underwear. We go back to Carrie. She is at her apartment and she is currently screening Bill's voicemail because he is currently outside waiting for her to come downstairs so they can get out. She lets him leave. Carrie calls Miranda for a tip, and Miranda says that Carrie is just terrified of getting hurt again, and I do agree with that. However, this does make Carrie go to Staten Island for Bill, but only on her own. She sees Bill at the dinner and tells him that she needs to take it slow. They make out in the coat closet. Carrie leaves on her own past midnight, and her shoe falls off.
Wait! I lost my shoe!
But don't worry, she puts it on herself and gets Bill to take her back home to Manhattan in his stallion of a BMW. Episode 2, Politically Erect. It's election year, you guys. Whoops. And Carrie is joining Bill at every event. She's also wearing this massive rose, like on a black dress, and I can't stop looking at it. I forgot there was a time when like these massive silk flowers were just like a trend that people were doing. Miranda and Steve are busy walking down the street. If there's one thing about Miranda and Steve is that you know their asses are going to be walking down the street. He asks if she is dating, but we learn that Stevie is not. Only wants her exclusively. Miranda is uncomfortable. Look, I get that Steve gets the excuse because like the actor is cute and the show makes him cute and we know that they're cute together. But if a man did this to me, after saying that I don't want to date him multiple times. The girls are having power brunch outdoors. Carrie is wearing shoulder pads, and she is apparently not enrolled to vote. Charlotte says that she wants to help Bill with the campaign, but really all that means is that she is dangerously into politicians, and the girls are making points. A good president should be attractive. Carrie says they should wear hats again. Why did she say that? Also, apparently Charlotte had a crush on a guy named Dan Quayle. Computer, pull up images of Dan Quayle. Ew. Also, we get Miranda. She is walking down a sidewalk. It is an addiction for her. But she's with Carrie, and they are talking about how nervous Miranda is about letting Steve get back into her life. She literally says, what if something better comes along? Like, honey, is that not what dating is? Also, Carrie uses the payphone. It goes nowhere. Who was she calling? I want to know. I'd also like to say that today's episode feels like a bit of a topic rehash compared to the pilot, but like with a different background. Like, isn't this whole thing just like doing it like a man, no strings attached if you just remove all the politics? Like, no need to be kind or considerate. Samantha at a bar finds a guy with the middle part in his 30s, and Jeff is very much into her. She's flattered, she's into him, and he's short. Kim Cattrall is 5'7". My guess is this man is around 5 foot. But she is discussing this over at Bill's campaign party with all of the girls. Again, I repeat, Kim Cattrall is 5'7". I would get my climbing gear ready. In the meantime, however, Charlotte is campaigning herself to an ideal guy at the place, and Miranda came with Steve. She's there to introduce him to Bill, and Steve's parking joke ticket falls a little flat. It's crickets. Also, in the meantime, we learn that Miranda's doing a pros and cons list. Like, girl, if you have to do a list, like, it's over. Also, apparently, Stanford is there. He comes and goes. He says he can't stay because he has tickets to the vagina monologues. I've never been. I hear they're lovely. He's also very much into Bill's campaign manager. He asks for Carrie to be his wing woman. Carrie, do not refer to him as the bald guy. Charlotte, in the meantime, while she's over there campaigning herself, talks to a married couple, and that's when she finds out that the wife met the guy at a pig party. And Charlotte's into it. I don't think it's romantic, but it's enough for her to host one. When I was rewatching this episode, I literally forgot what the entire plot of this is, but it's literally just that Bill is into golden showers, and Carrie does not know what to do with that. He asks for a shower in the shower, and she runs to her friends to tell them the way that I would too. Samantha says that she should go for it, and this leads to Carrie eating curry with Bill. She's very nervous, not drinking water, and she is starting to hallucinate a little bit until he says that he can't spend the night. We're back at Charlotte's used date party. It feels very out of pocket. Samantha brings Jeff. She is looking fabulous. Carrie brings Stanford because of the failure of the politicians' party. And Miranda is there solo because she wants to see what her options are before she ends up going back to Steve. Charlotte, however, finds a new guy, Greg Miller. Jeff ends up finding out the truth about why Samantha took him to that party. Samantha ends up getting caught red-handed in her red dress, and she ends up taking him home to figure out where exactly the height limit is. Sad news, however, later on that week when they're at a restaurant together, she finds out he shops from the little boys department, and they only last a week. Charlotte, in the meantime, at the party, meets Greg's ex. The ex sees how much Charlotte's into Greg, and then I think we have probably the shortest time a guy has ever been on screen. Miranda and Steve are back together later that night, and Steve says the L word, love. Bill is with Carrie. He tells her, let's go take a shower. Read the room, first of all. But in the bathroom, she tells him that she's just not into it. She suggests dribbling warm tea if he closes his eyes so it'll feel like the real thing. But either way, he gives her bad news, like right after she denies him, and it feels very much like punishment for stepping out of line. So basically the news is that our girl cannot run her column and date him while he's running. So she dips. However, she does spread the word of the Holy Gospel, and New York now knows they have a golden shower of their own coming. Episode 3, Attack of the 5'10" Woman. It's Sunday brunch and the wedding section of the New York Times, you guys. The oldest girl in the wedding section is 27? She should have been at the club. Charlotte, however, while she's reading the news, finds someone on there too. And they get a whole quarter page. Carrie is very much not into it, and Miranda knows better than to talk about it, but they still do. Charlotte follows behind to go to Carrie's apartment with her. I think it's very sweet. She's there for support, and together they're reading the article. They fell in love in Paris. Natasha thought it was love at first sight. Only 50 guests at their wedding, and the New York Times. And they played When a Man Loves a Woman at the ceremony. Carrie holds a lot against Natasha, and I get it. But also, I feel like we're not putting enough hate on Big, for being the one to propose to a 26-year-old who he only knew for 5 months. Natasha is an innocent victim in all of this, people. In other news, we get a little preview of Miranda's cleaning lady, Magda. She is lovely. She is iconic. She is there every step of the way. She is a star. And she also reminds me of my grandma. This leads into Miranda and Carrie at a store. They're discussing using ovens as storage space and the ethics of pie baking. When all of a sudden, Miranda sees Natasha leave the dressing room that they're right next to, all in a white dress, all 5'10" of her. She apparently is on the committee for Women of the Arts, and apparently so is Carrie. Carrie, stand up. Carrie ends up setting her sights on impressing Natasha at an upcoming lunch-in. Samantha says that she's there to support Carrie, which I appreciate, but maybe Carrie should put her eyes elsewhere. maybe you're putting a little too much emphasis on a woman who knew Big for less than a year. We later move on in the episode. Our girls are having a spa day, all 4 of them. It's all very nice. They move into the sauna and Charlotte is the only one who's unwilling to take off her towel. We're getting more Renaissance women in here than I expected, so I can't show any of it, but there's quite a bit of push. Carrie, however, goes after Charlotte when she leaves the sauna, and she can tell that something is up. There's a lot of talk here about Charlotte's insecurities. We come up again to the fact that she hates her thighs. Samantha also, later on, gets out of a massage, and we find out from a side guest that the masseuse goes down on people? Should I call HR? Also, the Miranda subplot is like very funny to me because all it is that Miranda decides to go acoustic that night. She finds Mary Magdalena over in her drawer, and we find out that Magna is the one to blame. The whole thing between them ends on terms of mutual acceptance. At a cafe with Charlotte, Carrie shows up. We find out that Charlotte is starting a diet because it's, again, all about her thighs. Carrie calls her out and discusses shoes. Like, God, they are gorgeous. Atomica multicolored silks, mind you. Carrie changes her shoes in the middle of an indoor cafe. Either way, all we know is that Carrie really wants to see eye to eye with Natasha, especially after she bought a dress from Bergdorf that was worth half a rent. Listen, all I will say is that at the end of the day, Carrie, Natasha is the one who married your ex, and she's the one wearing the nice shoes that she can probably afford now, and that isn't exactly the way that you win this whole thing that's going on. Also, good news, Charlotte strips at the sauna, and she's comfortable with herself now, I guess. Bad news, workplace harassment, but from Sammy. Don't do that. So, Sam and Carrie are at the lunch-in. I've been to galas before, and I will say it's kind of surprising how little they've changed between like 20 years of existing. But guess who's not coming? Natasha. She actually ended up getting a cold. But our girls paid $85 each to get into the gala, and they aren't letting drink tickets go to waste. Carrie's at a table. She's not very good with her networking skills. Do not be rude, first of all. But Samantha does meet a girl named Jenna, someone who went to college with Natasha, but Jenna gave us all the tea. She got with the guy in the shower, and she went through the freshman 10. Does not cheer Carrie up in the slightest. Back at home, Carrie gets a thank you card from the lunch-on that Natasha signed because she was sorry that she wasn't able to go. And in her narration, Carrie says it all. She'll never be the girl who wears white without spilling. She's so crazy for that, you guys. You can't take her anywhere. And on the card, Natasha misspells their Their. Episode 4, Boy Girl, Boy Girl. Okay, look, so I have to give a content warning this episode for like really crazy levels of like 90s biphobia. The entire point of the episode is to say that bisexuals don't exist. I am sending my love to our bravest troopers out there. Without you guys, who is buying our tote bags and our Doc Martens? On the plus side though, we do get a very cool look at drag kings over at Charlotte's gallery. People are into it, especially Samantha. We meet the artist. He believes that gender is an illusion, and he's the only sane one this episode. Charlotte says that she cannot handle it, but it's just because he's hot. There's something about self-love and acceptance that just makes a woman go crazy. Also, it turns out that Carrie is with a 26-year-old. I feel like I've seen this before. We move to Miranda. Steve is at her apartment before she is. Apparently they've been living together for a while, just like rooming it up. It's a pizza type of night, and they're very cute together. What I will say is not cute is the mess that he's making. Pick up after yourself. That is not your house. Back at the ice rink, Carrie is with her 26-year-old fling. She is in a skirt with no tights and a cigarette in her hand. I have nothing but respect for her. He also has a flask in his jacket. We love a man who's well prepared. Carrie believes that Sean is the perfect man, but then he asks the question, what was her last serious relationship? You know, Sean, if you watched my video, you would know. Sean ends up listing his own. He has Kayla, Leslie, and Mark.
Is that a problem?
Carrie during brunch says that he's bi. They talk about this like it's a goddamn disease. Miranda says that it's a problem. Samantha says that all the kids are going bi. At least I can defend her with her pansexual comment. Carrie apparently dated a guy in college before who was bi, and he ended up with a guy in the end. Like, girl, I think that's a you problem. However, Samantha says that all bi girls end up with guys. Like, what is this episode? Oh my god.
I'm a trisexual. I'll try anything once.
Samantha, however, is able to remind us why we love her. Miranda calls it being greedy. Charlotte also says this.
I'm very into labels. Gay, straight. Pick a side and stay there.
To me, it's actually really funny how close Carrie is to getting it in her narration. But this entire episode just happens to be in the mindset that this is like bad behavior. So later on, Carrie takes her guy Sean to some like new club called Hair that she's never heard of. And she just overall is very insecure. Like, girl, who cares if you dated a guy? Stand up. And that literally keeps on going into their pillow talk. She literally keeps giving him like theoretical like questions of like, oh, what would you do? What would you do if I was there? Like, she keeps phrasing it like if he were to choose between a girl and a guy. And I get that it's the 90s, but if Sean does not get his ass out of that goddamn apartment. In the meantime, Samantha is at her PR office. She is with a guy who's her new assistant. We will miss you forever, Nina, in the arms of an angel. He is very rude, very brash. Whole plot line is just that she wants to do it with him. He is her employee. And then she's able to fire him when he talks back to one of her clients. And then, you know, happy endings for everyone. We go back to Miranda. She's having problems with Steve being at her apartment so often and basically overtaking her apartment. Like, he literally has just a pile of his nasty clothes over in the corner. Boy, if you don't go and pick up after yourself, like, maybe stop being a bum first. And then maybe don't react by leaving at the first sign of a disagreement. She ends up going to a class to try to find her inner goddess. Our poor girl is going through it. She's very much nervous about like not being a girly girl. And it's like, ma'am, you are a lesbian. Go to the club and you will be scooped up immediately. Charlotte is at her gallery with Mr. Gender's an Illusion. He asks for her to pose as a drag king. And she says she's not butch enough for it. I disagree. It can be done by anyone. It is an art. But she goes along with it. They have fun. There's just something about a woman in a mustache. She literally looks like a politician who never went through like twink death. And they get it on after she gets a Packer. Like, meh, I get it. Also, everyone look at this photo. Miranda is back home. She is frazzled. She has groceries. She cannot tell the difference between extra virgin olive oil and just regular virgin olive oil. She loses it after she drops a glass of sauce. And it just kind of goes overboard. She says to Steve that she loves him, but she can't handle living with another person. And there is something about just her sad, big eyes while she's saying that she doesn't cook and that she's stubborn, that just really makes you feel for her. Like, she's so insecure and she's so nervous. And again, Steve is right there to support her. It's just like, God. Okay, so I'm gonna go over the scene between Sean and Carrie really quickly because it pisses me off. Basically, all that this is that imagine like a hazy red flag over like this section of the video. All that happens is that Carrie goes with Sean to what you could consider a bi party for Mark's current boyfriend who has a baby with him, i.e. all of Sean's friends are bisexual, the way that all of my friends are evil lesbians. And the entire point of this is that because they're bisexual, no one is really keeping their hands to themselves. Carrie tries to play it cool, acting like she doesn't care, but we all know she does. And she even does spin the bottle, because bisexuals can't not make out with people. She actually does kiss a girl, but she ends up leaving the place. And honestly, Carrie just can't handle being around some of the coolest people in the world, in my opinion. She's also wearing this godforsaken flower on her stupid pleather shirt, while some sad piano music plays. Okay, episode 5, no ifs, ands, or buts. Content warning, makes you wonder how many of these we're gonna get in a row. But there's like 90s eras, like racism towards like black culture in this episode. Samantha's very weird about dating a black man, and they completely destroyed the actress's character for Sandra Oakley just for the sake of this episode. It's very weird. But we're talking about first dates and first kisses, and Charlotte gets hers very sloppily, I might add. It makes you wonder, am I a bad kisser? No one's willing to tell you. Charlotte doesn't want to dump him because he's a bad kisser. She thinks that she can change him, like he's a little project. Like, I'm starting to doubt if I really want her to become a STEM major. The girls are chatting in a brand new restaurant featuring Adina Williams and her brother Asio. And so far they're sweet. But also Asio recognizes Samantha at a party for JLo. I didn't know Samantha was cool like that. They exchange cards, and Sammy is basically on the case. Do you think it's like the double earrings that he's wearing? Later on, we get Stanford at Carrie's apartment, and he's actually there to take her to a new furniture place. Because guess who we're about to meet? Aiden! Classic American with a dog in the store, and he's just ever so casually posing over his furniture. Stanford also meets a guy named Marty Mendelson. Can I talk to the writing department right now? Either way, Aiden's dog is there to immediately run towards Carrie and start humping her leg. It very much made me remember how much the early 2000s thought that dogs humping someone was like the funniest joke in the world. And Carrie is very much interested in the owner. It's very cute, but like as I watched the episode, it reminded me of how much of a nothing character Aiden feels at times. Like, he's a little too perfect, he's a little too calm and like collected and straightforward, but not in like a bad way, just in the sense that like he's supposed to be a very obvious like opposite to Big, and it makes in turn Aiden feel very bland in comparison. We get to Miranda, she's at her apartment, and Stevie is just filled with joy and whimsy as he strolls down her hallway with a basketball in his hands because he got picked to do a half shot at next Tuesday's Knicks game. Miranda tells him to not get his hopes up, but he's bouncing that damn ball in the house. Our girls Miranda and Carrie are outside of Magnolia Bakery. I am allergic to bananas, but I would still die for one of their banana puddings. I would risk it all for that. They discuss Aiden, crushes, and Miranda being unable to support Steve-O's like dream of being a millionaire. Samantha goes to a club with Asio, and she kind of awkwardly stands there, which like, I get a mood. And later that night they're hitting it off. She even asks him to stay over. After the first date, Carrie and Aiden are at the brownstone steps, and Carrie admits the terrifying truth. She's a writer, not a designer, and he doesn't care until she actually tries to smoke. We love a man who takes care of his lungs, except he says that he can still taste the cigarette on her lips. Like, it is not that crucial. Do not be rude. You literally just saw her put a cigarette to her mouth. However, Carrie is down bad enough that she actually is willing to stop smoking for him, at least partially. Carrie is questioning the dating market, and like, girl, look into the future by 23 years and look at what we're dealing with. Charlotte is treating her fling like a damn dog, and he kisses like one too. Stanford and Marty, horrible couple's name. They are at Marty's place. He reveals that he has a doll collection, and I'm getting flashbacks to Carly finding out that like her motorcycle boyfriend collects Pee-wee babies. Except Carly's boyfriend was sane, and he had them like on the wall. This man has like $30,000 worth of doll collections, like just on his bed. Like, and I think that's actual serial killer behavior. Why are they not in secure stands on the shelves? Sam is on her date with Asio. Adina shows up to get him to dip for a moment at her restaurant, and she confronts Sam on it. She doesn't approve because Sam is white. I'm giving this entire episode a red flag. Because who in their goddamn minds would actually speak like this to another person? Like, look, I'm giving Adina no flags because like, I know that this was just the weird scriptwriters doing their thing. Like, she was done dirty. At lunch, Samantha says that she is standing against racism. Charlotte is saying words that I will not repeat for PR purposes. And Carrie says that she has to quit smoking for Aiden. Something that I finally agree on, and apparently all the other girls do as well. She says she won't change herself for a man, i.e. stop smoking, but did she not try to change herself every waking minute for Big? We're back at Miranda's apartment. This is honestly, I think, the first time on the show that we see her do actual lawyer work. And aside from talking about it, Steve is getting mad at her because she got busy with work and can't go hooping with him. Maybe calm down on the cursing. Actually finally loses it and like lets it all out. Why can't Miranda believe in him? But don't shed a tear. She misses court to go to court for him. Carrie later on is at Aiden's shop with that goddamn flower on her shoulder. Patricia Fields stepped away from the safety pins. They go out for coffee, and turns out that they had a whole night out. Carrie isn't actually sure about giving up smoking, but she tries, except she actually ends up lying about a deadline to smoke outside with a cigarette from her chain print Dior saddlebag. Girl, that fell in New York water. Do not be nasty. We're at the part where Samantha's at the club, and like, how do I phrase how weird this whole thing is? There's a fight, words are said, hair gets pulled, and I just...
And your okra wasn't all that!
Also, end of the episode, Carrie throws out all of her cigarettes, blocking her damn toilet, and puts on a patch, which shows that she's actually serious about changing for Aiden. Episode 6, Are We Sluts? Carrie is home after her 4th date with Aiden, and it's time to get serious. It's time to get serious. Except he tells her he has to get up early next day. Meanwhile, Samantha finds out that someone got held at gunpoint at her complex, and that the guy came in right behind her own little guest. It's brunch. The girls did not have a good weekend. Charlotte says that she's staying with Alexander, and she's just too embarrassed to say what he told her. Charlotte takes it a little too personally. Let's all say it. Stand up. Carrie is back with her date with Aiden. He says that he has to wake up early again. She leaves him in the hall. He says, no, baby, I want to sleep with you. But he's a heartbroken man. This actually kind of adds up later down the line. The problem, however, Carrie's getting a little too worried that she thought they could sleep after a week and a half together. Carrie thinks she's forgotten about romance. I think it's because subconsciously she's not over big, and so she thinks that Aiden is a fling, but that's just my theory. Also, Miranda has a clap. We're starting to get into body counts for this episode, you guys. Where's that tweet that said your body count restarts at the beginning of every year? I agree with them. Charlotte is on a date with Alexander. She talks to him about what he said to her, and he literally doesn't remember. She backs out though, but not in time for him to say it again to her. Miranda gives Stevie the news. He doesn't want to go to the doctor and ask that if he's just a carrier, why should he get tested? However, he does finally get tested. Miranda does her count, and she starts to get kind of afraid. It's starting to get a little too high for her. Back at Carrie, she's with Aiden, and they've got takeout, and she's questioning what makes him a boyfriend if they aren't doing it. She even calls Charlotte about it while Aiden is in the bathroom, but don't worry, he's just setting up a romantic bath for her alone. She's kind of back and forth about it just being her, but he tries to leave while she's still in the tub. There's something about that I don't like. We're back at Samantha's apartment. And apparently everyone else who lives there knows about her count. And apparently she's the one who's getting blamed for the holdup. Later on, however, it turns out everyone with the single gray hair is talking about her by the mail. And apparently Sam lives in a rent-controlled apartment on the Upper East Side. Is everyone rent-controlled? Also, Charlotte's date cannot keep it in, and he gets really insecure. I mean, he starts therapy at least. Miranda gets nervous because Steve is negative and she's not feeling very good about herself. We learn she has a 42 body count. 42 too many to Miranda, but who's counting? Steve tells her though he's over 60. This man is ran through. In the meantime, however, Carrie does finally sleep with Aiden, and she's realizing that this will actually mean something for them, which means Aiden gets a permanent place on our board. For now. Also, Sammy moved to the meatpacking district. It's all very fabulous. Episode 7, Drama Queens. Carrie has been starting to wake up with night terrors, and it's really starting to eat at her. Everything is in order, nothing is out of place. And why, you may ask? Because she's not in a toxic relationship anymore. Carrie, do we remember what your therapist said? At brunch, Carrie is describing her situation. She's used to everything being hard and uncomfortable. Miranda says her and Steve are safe and she likes it. But Samantha says the hard part. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Charlotte says that this is what she's been reading. Girl, put the book down. Also, the book is titled Married Incorporated. 1, she calls it Finding a Mate. And B, she calls everyone dysfunctional women. Samantha is out with a guy named Mark Raskin. He's an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and he's here to take some Viagra and test out all of her holes. Also, he takes it recreationally. That feels like not safe. Carrie is getting into a persona that really reminds me of when she was at that party with Big when she had her hair flat ironed. She's rude, she's testy, and she's picking at any little thing that can happen. Like, she's specifically trying to find problems with Aiden, so that way she knows that, like, there's a problem with Aiden. But Aiden doesn't care. He just wants Carrie to meet his parents because they're in town. Charlotte, in the meanwhile, is with Amy and Dennis at a restaurant. Some friends of hers who are married. She is on the hunt. She is on the prowl. And he's got a unibrow that maybe he should grow in a little bit more, looking a little, like, not even. They end up setting her up with a guy named Phil. It's just very awkward. But she calls Phil. She isn't getting any callbacks. Bad news for Miranda strikes, though. Steve leaves skid marks. She's with Carrie discussing it. Maybe she's in a rut. Who knows? Carrie talks about how Aiden wants her to see his parents, and she's not liking it. now she's the one acting like big, and Miranda thinks Carrie won't believe anything is serious unless there's a chase. Mess Carrie up so bad, you guys. Also, it's not getting better for Carrie at any moment now. She's got her sparkly baguette over her shoulder. She's got a deadline that I no longer believe. And she's telling Aiden that she's not sure about like meeting his parents. She's starting to like think it in like theoreticals. It's big for her, but it looks like Aiden understands. Except she thinks that they're too available for each other, and she isn't exactly handling that well either. I mean, Aiden looks sad at least when she leaves. It also turns out that Charlotte used her opera ticket on Carrie, and she has got this beautiful, stunning Dolce & Gabbana dress on. But what is going on with her hair? Like, you look like a founding father. Also, Charlotte is still insane. She's at the opera and she is still calling Dennis to get Phil's number. But she does get set up for a date. Samantha's whole side plot is that she tries Viagra, and we get the most amazing transition in the world.
Isn't the opera romantic?
She also ends up addicted. We're at the opera, at the balcony. Our girls have their binoculars. Carrie is scoping the place. And guess who she sees? Big and Natasha. Wearing white, looking gorgeous as always. She leaves early. Big tries to follow her. Oh my god. But thankfully he's not able to catch up. Carrie, however, is still waking up in the middle of the night with all of her night terrors. And seeing Big doesn't really help her case. She does give the call to Miranda, though, and does end up fessing to what happened. She can't handle an available man, but she knows she wants a man who loves her in her life, and the next day she calls Aiden, and he's not there, and by nightfall she's worried. Charlotte heads to her little setup, a Prada purse and a lipstick skirt to match, and guess who she finds there? Dennis! Yeah, he wanted to cheat on his wife with her. Thankfully, she leaves running off, tries to grab a taxi, and then ends up tripping, but guess who's there waiting for her? Running out of the car to grab her. Trey. It's been 2 days since Carrie has heard from Aiden. She pops over to a restaurant and she fucking knocks on the window again. She knows that she wants to be with Aiden, and she knows she's got to take the leap of faith. And also, she didn't hear the call back because she told him to be less available, so he literally just did that. Like, I don't like that. Use your common sense. She called you multiple times. There was clearly something going on with her. Episode 8, The Big Time. In the opening scene, Carrie is missing her dry cleaner because he's closed, but also it looks like it's like past midnight, but unrelated. Charlotte is very, very happy with Trey. He's got family money, and she isn't giving it up to him at all. Getting her and Carrie's nails done, she talks it out and thinks that he might actually be the one. Carrie is against it, and Charlotte thinks if you don't have sex for a year, you become re-virginized. Carrie, in the meantime, is getting very cozy-wozy with Aiden. Her bed is a mess, and she's eating Chinese food on top of her sheets, but they're very happy at least. In her apartment, Samantha meets actually the worst type of man out there, one with earrings and a low ponytail. And this all happens while she's grabbing her mail. And guess what she got? Premenopausal women's magazines. Charlotte is wearing a leather headband at the restaurant, and oh my god, I need one immediately. They're discussing Kegel balls, suppositories, and apparently Samantha has been doing her exercises before it was something Goop was advertising to us. They're all synced up for their periods, except Sammy. Miranda and Steve are out for ramen. A baby is next to them crying. Steve loves babies, but she does not. This feels like something they should have talked about a while ago. He's also discussing premarital baby making while she's trying to make partner at the firm, and they've only been living together for 2 months. Like, maybe I'm too anti-baby right now, but like, this man is talking about babies like they're puppies, and I can't handle that. Carrie is running to her cleaners again. She is wearing fabulous purple tights, and she missed out on her laundry, so now she's prepping for a brand new magazine release party on a boat. Aiden asks not to come, so she goes solo. It's giving pre-influencer. Also, apparently Trey and Charlotte are there. I feel like this is a hint about how well he's known in like their sphere. He's very boring, but Charlotte's very in love, especially because he's discussing their meet cute over and over and over again. She ditches them for the buffet. Trey says this killer line.
Hey, I'm gonna go hit the buffet. Okay.
Not too hard.
And at the cheese platter, she bumps into Big. It's more like ambushed because he stands right behind her. And also, Natasha is not there because she ended up missing the boat. Carrie ends up escaping, but Big is right behind her. They get to talking, and the first thing he asks is if she's seeing anyone, but this time she gives Big an actual see you later. Samantha is 5 days late, and she's worried at brunch. Charlotte thinks that the Cartier she's been gifted means Trey must be in love with her. The word tampon is used 10 times here, and Samantha breaks down because we find out it's been 35 days since she's gotten her period. And that also she's been lying about her age to the girls, but we all knew this. Carrie is questioning burnt toast theory, and it's starting to dip into her day-to-day. We get more of Miranda actually doing her job. I feel like there were too many complaints that they talk about her being a lawyer and not her actually doing the lawyer work. So they're trying to change that now. And Steve is getting on my damn last nerve because he's watching Scooby-Doo like she's not even there because she has to get used to a noisy house if there's a baby.
I'm serious, Steve. Turn off the cartoons.
But Scoobs, what about the ghost?
Miranda and Carrie are walking down the street. Miranda is in girl boss chic, and Carrie is with another fucking flower. Miranda feels like Steve is her baby now, and we're starting to treat the discussion of having a baby together like it's a must. Miranda very much is all about her clock ticking, but didn't she freeze her eggs like literally like a season ago or something? Samantha is desperate enough to go out with the guy in the mullet. It's all very sad. For the sake of her dignity, I will show nothing. But good news is that she actually ends up free bleeding on his white sheets. At her office, Steve calls Miranda to tell her to go somewhere in half an hour. Like, for what? For a dog? And she says yes. But it also feels like Steve pushed her into like the corner for it. Like, he's not even really taking care of the puppy, and she's very much not feeling it. Steve very much, for some reason, takes any argument from Miranda and takes it as her giving up on them, and I do not like that.
Because you don't want it to work.
That is so unfair.
I mean, at least she made partner. To girl boss, you must girl lose. Charlotte is with Trey. She's trying to keep her bases cleared, and so far so good. And Trey tells her he loves her, and that earned him some time with her hand. And Carrie is back with Aiden at her apartment, which earns her time with Big on her machine. And when Aiden goes out for some milk, Big literally shows up 2 seconds afterwards. They pass each other in the hallway. Carrie is not up for it, and Big finally admits the truth.
I'm so fucked up.
He says it to her over voicemail. He loves her and he misses her. Talk about fucking with someone's head. Episode 9, Easy Come, Easy Go. So Miranda might have broken up with Steve, but apparently they're still living together. We also find out that this is something that's been going on for 3 weeks. You're telling me that this man has been a bum for 3 weeks? In the meantime, Carrie is at a designer's showcase with Aiden, and they're having fun. While he gets coffee, she's manning his booth, and it looks like Natasha and Big are on the lookout for some furniture. Carrie is tripping over herself, and Big looks like he's seen a ghost. I hope it gives him a heart attack. But don't worry, he gets coffee spilled on him instead, so Aiden actually never ends up learning his name. But don't worry though, after the show is over, Big still finds Carrie, and he's a little drunk, and also very inconsiderate. His house is too beige for his liking, and he tells Carrie that he's getting out of his shiny new marriage, and Carrie relays it to the girls at brunch. The girls are fussing over it, and right now Carrie is just saying that it's a little too sad for her liking. Like, the 7-month itch is what we're calling it. Charlotte, however, is defending herself and her own choices with Trey. If it all goes well with meeting the parents, he might propose. Miranda is helping Steve find a place to live, and they're like basically researching the gulag, and Miranda's taking very much like pity on him. I think this is a calculated move by Steve, where he knew that if he took Miranda to look at the things that only he is able to afford, she would take pity on him and let him stay longer. That is my opinion. Charlotte is meeting Buddy McDougal, Trey's classic little mother. She's showing baby photos out in public, and Charlotte picks up on a brand new move. A hand on the wrist, and he does what he's told. Sam's entire plot is that the guy that she's with, he doesn't taste good.
I'm dating a guy with the funkiest tasting spunk.
And that she basically just takes him to a couple places to try to nutrition her way into like him not tasting so funky. Does it end up working out? Not really. I don't think she waited enough. Also, Miranda is at her house and gets a voicemail from a date that Steve went on her home phone. This is psychotic. I mean, it's also literally not as psychotic as Big, because he also left a message on Carrie's phone. She invites Miranda for an opinion, and it's very obvious that Carrie wants to hear him out. But don't worry, because literally Carrie forgoes all logic to call Big the moment that Miranda leaves. Like, apparently he thought about marriage and that it's gonna cost him a lot, and that she should forget about it. At dinner, Charlotte thinks that Trey is going to confess to her and ask her to be his wife. He does not. So what does she do? She puts her hand on his arm and says they should get married. I don't think this is a win, girl. But she makes up a lie and pretends that he proposed to her in front of Tiffany's. This feels a little sad to me. Miranda, however, is dealing with an empty couch and a loud dog. When Steve comes back from his date the morning after, she realizes that it's basically over for them. But maybe they can still try to be friends. In the meantime, Aiden is redoing Carrie's apartment. Why is she working from home right now? And also, why is he working while she's working from home? But she decides to go out of the place to go to work, but instead of a coffee shop, she goes to a hotel. Is that not more expensive? Okay, so I need to relay this. Carrie is at the hotel room, right? She's working. She has a deadline. It looks like it's real and big. He calls Carrie's voicemail, right? Aiden doesn't know who this is, so he tells Big, oh, Carrie's at the hotel nearby. Big goes to the hotel, calls her down from her room to get her to come to the lobby, except it's not the lobby, it's the bar. He says to her all of these things to try to get her to come back to him. This man literally terrifies me. Carrie is literally so distressed.
Stop this, the flirting and the jerking me around and the calling my boyfriend. He doesn't know about you, and I don't want him to ever know about you.
She's running off, and let me tell you that if you put some violins here, this would actually be a horror movie. This would be a suspense thriller. Because Big chases Carrie into the elevator. He's grabbing her, cornering her. He forces a kiss onto her. He tells her that he loves her. She's pushing him off, and after the third time, she kisses him back. Look, for all the shit I give Carrie, I actually felt bad for her this time. But she also dug her own grave, so, she might as well lay in it. Episode 10, All or Nothing. Carrie is spending a night out with Aiden, and while Carrie is quoting about Evie White and her luck, I think she's pushing it. Slept with Big a week ago, it is haunting her, and I wonder why. Either way, the girls are at Samantha's new downtown apartment in the meatpacking district. All of their food has been delivered. It's like proto Uber Eats and TaskRabbit. They have it all. And although Sammy agrees, Charlotte thinks that having it all means having someone in your life to share it with. Are all of the friends next to you, not people you're sharing your life with? After the party, Carrie ended up staying behind at Samantha's, and we get the reveal that she actually did end up sleeping with Big, at least publicly. She's calling it a one-night stand, and she's asking for it to stay confidential. I give Samantha props for supporting Carrie through it all and saying that as long as Aiden hasn't said I love you, that she's good for keeps. That night, Carrie visits Aiden at his place and likes to believe it's over and done with. Except he's going to Pennsylvania that morning, and Carrie is very much nervous about being alone. Samantha is going through a cold and her entire episode plot is basically just that one tweet. So, our bride-to-be Charlotte is currently at Bergdorf's and they're picking out fine china. $1,300 of worth of fine china, to be exact. And under the guest list, Charlotte finds out she needs to sign a prenup. I guess our wasp forgot what it meant to marry into money, except Miranda reads the fine print, and they've got Charlotte on a vesting schedule. What does that mean? Every 5 years they're together, she gets a percentage of $500,000 over 30 years. Any boys, $100,000. Any girls, nothing. Miranda suggests they bargain, and while they're at dinner, they meet George, a guy from Chicago. And turns out, him and Miranda have a date set up? I mean, he's fine. He looks like he listens to Weezer. Carrie, in the meanwhile, as she waits for Aiden to come back, starts seeing visual hallucinations of her time with Big while she's organizing her Manola collection. She cracks into a spare box of smokes and she's starting to wonder. And as she lays there, out of her mind, she calls Big. Big tries to distract her and say that he very much wants it to happen again while he's married. Listen, Carrie, you might be the other woman. This man can absolutely say no just as much as you can. Both of you are kind of in the wrong for this. Carrie, at least wait for the honeymoon period to pass. Miranda is yearning for her Georgie. He leaves for a flight and says that he might come back. Good news, he calls her immediately. They end up doing it over the phone. Carrie's narration says that it's the best date Miranda has ever been on. That makes me really sad for her. Her plot also ends with the fact that she finds out that he was calling other women at the same time as her, which one is just bad behavior and two, messy planning. How do you call multiple people at once? Later on, Carrie greets Aiden at her door, and she's basically hidden all evidence of Big ever having been over at her apartment. The guilt is literally eating her alive. Maybe cut it off, Carrie. Aiden says the L word, and she says it back. Also, Carrie visits Samantha, make her a mix of cough syrup and soda. Samantha, was your mom giving you lean when you were a kid? However, thankfully, 3 days later, our girls are at an uptown party for Miss Charlotte, and I'm kind of obsessed with Carrie's hairdo at Charlotte's engagement party, and she spills that she hasn't signed the prenup yet because they're unwilling to negotiate with her, and she doesn't really feel cared for in the family. But don't worry, she confronts the woman of the house. Bunny says her worth is the standard amount, but she fights it back.
Questions, but
What do you want?
I'm worth $1 million.
Afterwards, she signs the prenup. Our Charlie is getting married, you guys. Back at Carrie's, while she's with Aiden, Big calls her, and she also takes Pete out for a walk as an excuse, so that way, she can talk to Big. Big says that he's telling Natasha tonight, ? And in her shock, she lets go of Pete on accident. She's running in kitten heel strapless pumps, and Big is chasing right after her. Eventually, nighttime hits, and she knows she has to tell Aiden everything. But guess who's there? I can't even lie, I did tear up. He confronts her, though. Is she cheating on him? Is she smoking? She only says half the truth. Episode 11, Running with Scissors. Carrie is out to meet Big in an overcoat and sunglasses. They're at a rather nice hotel room, and they're enjoying the art of sodomy and affairs a little bit too much, in my opinion. Except they're starting to do this a little too often, and the affairs are starting to get a little nasty. They're still doing it, and yet Carrie is talking about them, caring about people getting hurt. This man is literally so disrespectful to her. But at this point, are we even surprised? Can we even think about them escaping the cycle that they have? Carrie is with Miranda at a bar, and Carrie is confessing she's having an affair with Big, and it's enough to get Miranda to start smoking. It's been going on for 3 weeks now, and she needs help. Carrie wants to get out of this without anyone getting hurt, but let's be a little bit realistic here. Our girl Sammy is at the bar, and she sees Tom Raimi, a Manhattan legend. They call him the male Samantha. I call that a predator. They hit it off, and he has a bedroom swing. However, the one side note is that she must get tested before they do anything further. Girl, you are laying pipe this often. You need to get tested. Charlotte is once again giving office siren at brunch, and she's got 10 pounds of bridal magazines to share. She's gown hunting, and Samantha brings up getting an AIDS test. Carrie's gotten 2, Miranda 3, and worst thing is getting the bad news and being taken to the back room. It's like they take you out the way they would with a horse who has a broken leg. In the meantime, Carrie got to thinking. Also, Miranda experiences sexual harassment by a guy in a sandwich costume. Where does this go? Charlotte is at a bridal shop, and we actually get our first introduction to Anthony Martinell, the stylist, who later turns out to be a friend of Samantha at her recommendation. I kind of like him. He knows his fabrics, and he cuts to the chase, and just like that, Charlotte finds her dream dress. Samantha gets very nervous about her testings, and after a couple answers, she's trying to figure out how many partners she's had. The whole thing is very funny until the very end, where she literally passes out because she thinks that they're trying to take her to the small room to take her out like they would a horse. Carrie, however, is facing her partner, and she's starting to do that thing she does where she gets angry about something and then she makes it everyone else's problem. She points out the noises that Aiden makes when he's kissing her. She pushes him off. He's ready to leave. And there's just something I don't like about the fact that he gets frustrated and then again does the thing that Steve does, where his first move is just to get out of the building. Later on with Carrie, we're at a hotel room that her and Big have been frequents at. Enough that she gets confused for a prostitute, and that's enough to get her to leave the building, except when she does, Charlotte is right there at the door, and Charlotte sees both her and Big leaving together. The girls talk it out at Charlotte's apartment while she's packing up, and Carrie denies the biggest truth. She is not the other woman. She's not, you guys. And while watching this, I forgot this is the episode where this happens. Carrie is at Big's place. He's leaving early for work, and Natasha's supposed to be at the Hamptons in the meantime. Carrie says that they should stop seeing each other. Big is acting an ass, and he gives her an ultimatum to call Natasha. If he tells her, will she be at his side and dump Aiden? Oh my god. He leaves, and Carrie stays for a while. Girl, this is not your place anymore. You cannot silently ponder about the type of person Natasha is while sleeping with her husband, acting as if she's not even real. But she doesn't have to ponder because Natasha actually does come back early. And while Natasha catches Carrie and chases her down the steps of their apartment, Natasha trips and cracks a tooth.
Carrie! I see you! Wait! I knew you were having an affair, but not in my house! Stop! I'm talking to you!
Big shows up at the hospital, and he has the audacity to ask if Natasha is okay. He even tells Carrie, thanks for being here, and that he'll call her. She says that they're over, thankfully, and goes back home to Aiden in her apartment. And now she's free. Except there's still 7 episodes left this season. Episode 12, Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Miranda is speed dating. Personally, I don't think these work. 8 minutes to know someone... All they do is discuss the job they have and like, resume topics about themselves. Except when Miranda says she's a lawyer, everyone loses interest. But don't worry, the moment she lies about being a stewardess, a guy finally is interested in her. We are back at the rehearsal dinner for Charlotte. The girls and Aiden are all there, and Miranda's telling it all. She even has a date for the wedding now. Aiden says that Miranda can't be with the guy because, she's lied to him now, and everything about this just feels very on the nose, to be quite honest. Samantha has her sights set, however, on a Scottish guy. This is again another nothing plot. It goes nowhere with her. However, I will say that watching Caleb speak did make me feel the way I did when I had to put on subtitles to watch Trainspotting. While the girls are at a store putting on bridesmaid dresses, Carrie thinks that she should tell Aiden about her affair with Big. Charlotte says only after her wedding, and Samantha wants a shorter dress. Charlotte implies Sammy was only asked to be a part of the wedding to not be left out. Miranda's on her date with this guy. She has a scarf around her neck. It's very camp. She's acting very dumb, very stupid, and she gets rewarded for it. At the bachelorette party, Carrie's hair is sky high, and we are celebrating Charlotte's last day as a single woman. And we learned something very, very important. She hasn't slept with Trey yet. Personally, I think it's too much of a risk, but it's Charlotte being Charlotte, so I won't blame her. However, Charlotte got drunk enough, actually, that she heads over to her new place shared with Trey. It's past midnight, and he just wasn't ready. Apparently, it's something that's always happened, though, and maybe Charlotte's starting to doubt herself about the wedding. Back at Aiden's, Carrie heads over to his workshop. It's a vague area. He has vague wood pieces surrounding him, and he's also building a wedding piece for Charlotte and Trey. It's like when I promise my friends that I'll crochet them things, and then I don't. I am so sorry. They're flirting, they're bending wood, and Carrie's trying to read between the lines about what he's saying. He says that flaws can be good. I don't think this is about you cheating on him. But don't worry, because Carrie's guilt is eating her alive, and she's smoking outside of his door at 3 a.m. Except Aiden is actually willing to look past her smoking to date her. It's still not enough for the truth, though, and the guilt is enough to pull her back into her apartment alone. At 3 a.m.? Did you walk there alone? That morning, Miranda ends up cutting her finger. We find out that the guy she's dating is actually not an ER surgeon. He literally just is an assistant manager at the Athlete's Foot store. Not even general manager? And Miranda is left in her kitchen as a single air hostess. She did not tell him the truth. At Carrie's, she's running late, which feels really weird that everyone got ready separately, but Aiden is there to pick her up at her apartment. He's talking about them building a love seat, and she's trying to keep him at a distance, and then she admits it. She slept with Big multiple times, all while Big was married, and he leaves. Carrie, there is literally no possible way that you thought that you telling that to him would actually have ended up well. Did you think he would stay? It's ceremony time. Charlotte is very nervous, and Carrie is there seconds before it's too late. Charlotte looks beautiful. She is stunning in that 14K Vera Wang. And with the veil over her head, and the girls are walking down the aisle, it's all great. And then she drags Carrie behind the aisles to tell her that her husband cannot get it up. Maybe now is not the time to do that, Charlotte. Carrie lies to Charlotte to get her down the aisle, and I do not blame her. The happy couple leaves the church. They go outside. Carrie spots Aiden nearby. He says this is something he'll never get over. Episode 13, Escape from New York. They brought the artificial rain back, you guys. It's drizzling, and Carrie is packing up to travel to LA with Miranda and Samantha. Back at brunch, Charlotte has honeymoon photos to show them from their time in Bermuda. The first one we see of them is playing golf. Ew. The second one is golf, the third one is golf, and after Miranda and Samantha leave, the girls end up spilling the tea. Our poor Charlie did not get any action while she was at Bermuda. Carrie ends up leaving the cafe in this amazing transition. And then we move into the girls arriving to LA with a fabulous hotel that I feel no longer exists in LA. I feel like I wouldn't be able to find this there. Why are they there, you might ask? Because a production company is shipping them out. Also did not get a smoking room for Carrie. Heading to the hotel bar, the girls miss cocktail hour and Samantha is getting hit on by a toy model. Whoops, I should probably move Aiden now. He apparently is the second bestseller in the States as well as Canada. He even invites her to a release party. You can't get action like that on LinkedIn anymore, I feel. Miranda's flirting with the guy who likes her, and he likes a pretty girl a whole lot better. In the meantime, guess who's playing Junior Development Executive? Sarah Michelle Gellar. She's all over Carrie, she's under 30, she points out a frame to someone who's nearby and calls them a loser.
You are such a loser. You're a loser. You are loser. I'm kidding. What a loser.
And she thinks Carrie is worth a movie. 2 maybe. Matthew McConaughey has actually been superimposed into their voice acting and he's like really into the material apparently. Carrie, not so much. Charlotte, in the meantime, is back home and Trey is not coming back to bed with her. Honey, the Word document is so much more important. The next day, Carrie rented a stick shift, does not know how to drive it up a hill. Driving in LA actually terrifies me. This is like a fun fact about myself. And the idea of driving stick through LA is even worse to me. It's bad enough for Samantha to get up and walk away. Like, girl, where are you walking? Carrie drives to her meeting with Matthew McConaughey at WB Studios, and she isn't any more better at driving than she was 5 minutes ago. Matthew, however, is very much into the writing and is very interested in fleshing out the central relationship. They didn't work in real life, but they can on the big screen. Makes you wonder how Candace Bushnell felt about this episode.
My only question really is, what the fuck is Carrie's problem? You know?
Matthew, if you do not take 2 steps back. Sam is at the release party aforementioned with Carrie and Miranda. There's a cake I cannot show on screen. The girls want to go, and Miranda's self-esteem issues are back. And later on after the party, Miranda gets to use her real-life toy. Sadly, however, they don't make it past LA. Carrie isn't exactly happy, but like, don't worry, because during breakfast, Samantha gifts them some nice toys. Miranda put that thing away. It's not even 10 a.m. Later that day, Carrie gets a call from Charlie, and it's still been days without getting any. But here's Carrie's tip. Tie a ring of paper around him, and then see if it breaks. If it breaks, his problems are mental. I don't think this is any better, honey. The next morning, good news for Charlotte. It ripped. Now she just has to deal with the psychological issues. At the cattle bar that the girls go to, Miranda takes a hold of her sexuality and gets on top of a mechanical bull. She looks insane. She looks absolutely insane, but she is free and I love her for that. Also, Carrie doesn't go to her second appointment at WB because she doesn't want them to point out why her relationships failed, and this feels like something that would like tank your entire career. Like, Carrie, if you do not make a 10-point U-turn right now and take your ass back to WB Studios to see Matthew McConaughey and have him spit in your face while he talks. Episode 14, Sex in Another City. So, we are still in LA, and it's time for Carrie to learn what a Brazilian is. Bless the bush, honey, but I think Carrie's reaction as a sex columnist is very interesting. Every damn thing shocks this woman. At the pool, Miranda is about to meet up with Lou, a friend who has moved to LA. This guy right here. And Carrie is suggesting her and Sammy use her press pass so that way they can get backstage to a movie premiere. Miranda heads up to a place called the Flowing Tree, which is basically otherwise known as Earth Cafe in the modern day. She sees Lou there. He's lost weight, he's all about green tea infusions, and turns out he's been drinking the kombucha because he loves LA now. This man sees how she's dressed and suggests a hike. Our girls arrive to the red carpet. They look amazing. Carrie flashes her badge because she's not on the list and gets told to get off the red carpet because her entry's on another side. Samantha gets mad at the girl counting heads, and I gotta say it's an amateur move coming from someone who's a PR girl. They never forget a face. But while Carrie's out smoking and Samantha's trying to get a cab, she sees Vince Vaughn not playing a cameo, and instead is Keith Travers, a guy. He's representing Matt Damon and is a writer, which means he can get them all in. And Carrie is just struggling to learn that the word disconnect is a piece of slang, like just use context clues, girl. And Oh my god, you guys, Hugh Hefner is in this. I actually forgot the entirety of multiple episodes. I think I just removed them from my plane of consciousness. Sammy, I love you. Do not idolize that man. On the other side, Carrie gets asked out for a drink. She's got a date and even gets to go to the VIP room. Charlotte's plot is all about her and Trey because she's basically got the whole going to benefits but getting no benefits, pushing her away, and he doesn't exactly want to talk about it. Like, he's taken up midnight runs. And it's enough for her to run to. All the way to LA. She shows up unannounced to Carrie's room and is starting to forget all about her dearly beloved. In the meantime, Carrie is looking at houses with Keith. We learn that this is $3 million in 2000s money. Maybe I should have been buying a house when I was a kid instead of spending all my mom's credit card money on Pixie Hollow. We get brunch again though. Charlotte likes LA's diet culture. Miranda's all about Lou because he's not angry and because he dropped 30 pounds. And Samantha shows off a purse that she got. Miranda's anti-fakes. Carrie is double checking the bag. And Samantha says her seller lives in the Valley. And our girls still don't know about Trey's little self-esteem issue. They also trick Charlotte into getting a Brazilian. Fake friends. Carrie decides not to buy a Fendi, and it starts to really dampen her mood. She's starting to get into the territory of things being special and being one of a kind. But it's enough for Charlotte to expose her own fake Fendi bag, her relationship, and they've been together for a month exactly. Samantha thinks a way to perk them up is to take them all to the Playboy Mansion. Also, a side note, Miranda finds out that Lou is into chewing and spitting. Also, side note, Keith is actually Carrie Fisher's little house sitter and a little liar. Side note, Charlotte at the mansion is getting into a guy who looks like he could be from the 1950s until he offers to buy her some implants. Samantha at the party realizes that someone stole her fake Fendi, accuses the bunny, and to confess it's a fake purse. She finds out that the bunny's is real, and it's time to leave the party. And time to leave LA. With her American Traveler in hand, Carrie's back home and back to smoking. Episode 15, Hot Child in the City. Let's discuss Jenny Breyer, otherwise played by a very young slay queen, Kat Dennings. She is reminding us that teens ambushing Sephora has literally always been a topic since day one. She asked for her bat mitzvah to have everything from food to entertainment to NSYNC, and Samantha just doesn't want to do it until she hears that the Clintons might visit. At the place for brunch that's supposed to remind us of a high school cafeteria, the girls are discussing teeth and Google diagnostics. Miranda is apparently a tongue thruster and she is not beating the allegations. Carrie, however, forces Miranda back into the closet when she delivers to a guy who's been scoping out Miranda a little love letter. Carrie, in the meantime, is looking for her shoe guy, who I would say is as equally important to a heart surgeon, in my opinion. And she learns from a guy that's running the new comic book store that her guy actually moved back to Brooklyn, which to Carrie basically means that he died. But the cute guy who's selling comics wants to be an aspiring artist. In New York terms, that means he comes from money. Carrie reveals that she's a well-known writer. The next week, Carrie actually gets in the mail like a really nice illustration of herself and like as a superhero, and it's like very cute. Cute enough actually for Carrie to go out on a date with him to this like pre-Dave & Buster's, and they pay $10 for like one of those like fake journey rides. Like $10? Really? The night ends, Carrie's outside, and Wade literally pulls out a scooter so that they don't have to haul a cab. There is something so insane to me about this. This man, this Nepo baby, lives in a classic 6 and is saying a scooter is cheaper than a cab? But Carrie meets his mom, and she's adorable, Mrs. Adams. In the meantime, Charlotte is trying to Google everything she can about Trey's dysfunction, and she's starting to think of turning him into like a cyborg. She prints out the page and literally is hiding it behind the page of a book that she's like having like split open in the middle. It's staring her right in the face. And she gives it to him. Like, Trey doesn't take it very well, but quite honestly, I feel like he took it pretty decently for like someone whose partner just handed them like the newest Apple installation. The next day, Carrie is discussing the scene with Samantha, and she's being told to dump him. Dating a guy who still lives with his family? Honey, forget the 2000s market. Let's talk about the right now market. It's current day. This is the only option. Miranda makes an appearance with brand new braces, and Jenny orders them from across the restaurant $200 of a Dom Perignon. And turns out that Jenny knows Carrie very well. Miranda gets braces shamed, and we experience the proto-plastics if the actors were actually their age. They're 13 and fucking fabulous. Miranda's out with Lance Bloom after she can finally handle solids, the poor girl, and she gets something stuck in her braces. Like, honey, you suck it out before you speak. Meanwhile, Charlotte and Trey finally go to therapy. Oh my god. They get to rename themselves, and that means I have YouTube-friendly words now. That's right. Charlotte calls hers Rebecca and his is Schooner. They've also been assigned some homework to relay fantasies.
I'm a fairy princess in a forest, and I'm riding on a unicorn.
Trey gives up, but Charlotte tries to get him back into the game. He gives up though, like a sore loser. Except later, Trey is tugging his Schooner to girly magazines. But also after therapy, she just cuts up photos of herself and like slaps them in there, and it's kind of funny. That same night, Carrie and Wade are together at her place. Mrs. Adam leaves a voicemail about the dog's medicine, and we're starting to see something about boundaries. And later on, we learn he's a smoker. Normal behavior if you live alone, but smoking from a water bottle bong at your parents' home of 34 years old, bum behavior. Later on at Jenny's bat mitzvah, our girl herself shows up with an audience to match, and Samantha's pretty happy about it, until she hears Jenny and her friends give some girl talk that I would have to censor. Ultimately, our story ends with having the life lesson that we should all value our childhoods. Sad part is that anyone who's watching this is probably a little too old for that. Carrie's at Wade's, they get a little too high, where everything is just a little bit too funny, and Wade gets sober a little too quick, a little too fast when he realizes that his parents have come back home. And when his mom comes upstairs and finds their stash of weed just conveniently on a table, Wade blames Carrie. But don't worry, you guys.
Yes, Mrs. Adams. I brought the marijuana into the house. And I'm taking it with me when I go.
Hot child in the city. Hot child.
And you know what? Maybe we should all have our own time as a hot child in the city. Episode 16. Frenemies. Miranda's busy prepping for her first date out with Will O'Connor, an urban planner who she met at a coffee shop that is getting no free press from me. Samantha is experiencing her own first day out while Charlotte and Trey are trying to get Schooner and Rebecca to finally, go out together. Sadly, his sales go down and it all ends a little bit too early. Carrie, in the meantime, has been pushing a quarantine, and she has been working every night indoors. It's enough for Miranda to know that she can call Carrie about her date being 3 hours late. Miranda asks to go out for a drink, but Carrie can't because she's about to teach a seminar, Bright Lights Date City. It's about catching men. Why would I take advice from Carrie about catching men? Miranda, in the meantime, tries to stand up, and when she calls Will's number, his mom answers. Why, you may ask? He died! At brunch, we learned from Miranda that it was because he had a heart attack at the gym, and that she's actually gonna go to the wake. I feel like that's a little bit overboard. But don't worry though, Samantha got them a reservation later on at the hottest new restaurant in town. But Charlotte actually is bringing down the mood though, because she's starting to get to her wit's end. And apparently, Charlotte does not do anything acoustically. But Samantha calls it out as it is. She thinks Trey has a Madonna whore complex, and I agree. Carrie heads over to her seminar, and it's packed full. We're getting looks, we're getting stunners. Carrie, however, is not the best at giving seminars. She's giving places to meet men. It's amateur hour. It's not good. It's a car crash. Carrie and Miranda are at the wake, and Carrie is starting to question her history. Is she truly wise? Has she learned anything from her experiences? No. At the party, Carrie sees Jim. He used to be in a band. I'm putting a red flag around that. Jim apparently used to be Will's roommate, and Miranda is very into, although Carrie tells us that he's actually a very bad breakup. It doesn't matter to Miranda though, but she has to learn the hard way eventually. We're back at brunch. Samantha's talking about riding her stallion. Charlotte is getting very judgmental because she's not getting any and Sammy is. Maybe don't slut shame your friends because your love life is in the tanker, okay? Both Miranda and Carrie decide to be neutral about it, and it reminds us that helps no one. Charlotte is out for lingerie with Carrie. Carrie is not being a girl's girl because she's not helping Charlotte find lingerie that she wants or needs. And I mean, have we not all been there? Have we all not been to a lingerie store to help our friends? It doesn't help that she's trying to go neutral again. This helps no one. Samantha, however, gets to meet her southern double for a scarf when she's out at a mall, and then later goes out with her for drinks at a bar. How do I express Claire Ann heading south for the night with her date at the restaurant in public? Miranda's date, however, is even better. We get told that Jim is such a good guy. Carrie, you were wrong about him. So much so that Miranda wants to invite Carrie to their second date. Miranda, that is literally psychotic behavior. Why did you invite your current date's ex-girlfriend of 8 years to your second time being with him? What is this? And let me tell you, when I see Carrie with them wearing this stunning Kenneth J. Lane butterfly necklace, it made the entire episode worth it. What's not worth it is when Carrie has to go through with him being an ass to her all over again. Does she walk all over people? Yes. But only Miranda can say that, not an ex-boyfriend. And in the meantime, Charlotte is trying to find solace with her sorority sisters, 3 of them to be exact. We forget that she has a life outside of the main crew. Don't worry though, Charlotte realizes that all of her sisters are Republicans after talking about banging her head against the wall, and it's enough for her to get back out of there and back to reality and back into the bedroom with Trey. And honey, she finds herself and him for a minute and a half. And Samantha is right there to cheer Charlotte on. It's like, I love Samantha. Carrie, however, learns her final lesson for the episode, comes back to the seminar, we find out it's only 8 girls left, and decides to take them out for a field trip. Carrie shows her skills out on the field, and it's all very cute. I feel like it's much more worth your money to go somewhere than it is to just sit at a seminar and be told what to do. I'm also starting to realize that when our girls are not dating toxic men, I start getting less flags. My board is getting less action. Episode 17. What goes around comes around. So we are starting this episode off with Charlotte and Bunny, and they are discussing family history. We learn that Trey gave up on his schooner despite flowing into Rebecca last episode, and we also learn that the McDougalls hired an absurdly handsome gardener. Charlotte is recapping her story to the girls. She is all over that man when suddenly Natasha walks in. A woman that gorgeous looks at me like that, I'm getting shot in the street. I am being put out like a dog. Carrie also has the audacity to act surprised. Like, girl, you had an affair with her husband, chipped her tooth, and made her go through surgery. But don't worry though, karma's got its kiss for her, because she gets robbed in the middle of the street. He not only took her baguette, but her watch, her ring, and her Manolos. But don't worry though, because Carrie's detective is hot enough for Miranda to get interested when she comes over to pick Carrie up at the salon and check and make sure that she's okay. Also, he asked Miranda if she's Irish because of her hair, and I don't know in what world that would be a good pickup line. However, it's enough for Miranda to get ready for a date, except not. Apparently, he's in the living room and she's getting dressed in her bedroom. What do you mean you made your date wait for you in your apartment? What do you mean? Miranda, however, is possibly getting good karma for all of her bad boyfriends, and it does get Carrie thinking. Will Carrie's own bad behavior bite her in the ass? You ask me, and that karma happens in the movie. You ask me, that karma happened in the movies. Samantha finds out that there's a Mr. Sam Jones who has been getting confused for her on the yellow pages, and apparently he's all the rage, and is also throwing a rager tomorrow. She grabs Carrie to join her for the hunt and for the address, and Sammy thinks that there's a cosmic purpose to their names matching. Also, she drops the, not most surprising take of a lifetime. Natasha left Big and is back at Ralph Lauren's. First of all, Carrie looks surprised again, and also, the implication that Big made Natasha leave her job when they got married is actually, I think, the scariest thing out of, all of this. Samantha's being a friend to Carrie, saying that it's not her fault, but let's, not lie to ourselves. The girls arrive to Sam Jones' party, and it's a dorm party. It's very claustrophobic, but Sam finds Sam, and he's very funny. I like him because Carrie gets punished by getting pushed down the stairs and not being able to hail a cab. Oh my god, it's like I've seen this before. Also, Samantha says that her karmic connection is to help make that kid no longer a virgin. Samantha also apparently made a very strong impact on that ambiguously aged freshman because he showed up to her place with a single red rose and immediately took her up on her offer and got to work. We're back to Charlotte. I literally forgot she existed, and is absolutely having the craziest dream of her life. At the vacation home again, she's introducing herself, and his name is Bert. Charlotte, you're into someone who's named Bert? She's eager enough that a single red rose handed to her gets her to kiss him, and that gets her sister-in-law to spill to Bunny and the entire family during cocktails. Who is this woman? Why is she so vindictive? Also, side note, Miranda's plot is that she is so nervous for her date because he's so hot that she literally cannot stop drinking drink after drink after drink at the restaurant because she feels like everyone's looking at her date. Girl, you are the one on a date with him. You're the one who won. Why are you worried? But at the end of the day, after a night together, the whole thing basically ends with him gone and having left her an AA card. It's a little presumptuous. Carrie later that week tries to fix her karma and tries to call Natasha at Ralph Lauren. And let me tell you, her assistant, she is there to fight for Natasha and she better get a raise. After Charlotte's expose, she goes out at night and finds Trey practicing tennis alone, shining and gleaming. If there is one thing about the show is that the men will be shining and gleaming. He says, however, that he's willing to accept that he cannot give Charlotte everything that she wants. He's willing to look the other way. Also, it's kind of sad that he won't fight for her. I feel like that's the one thing that Charlotte wants and he just isn't giving it back. She tells Trey that when they go back to New York, she wants for them to be separated. So Carrie figures out where Natasha was going to have lunch. And Carrie goes in with like one of the sexiest dresses I've ever seen. No bra, ambushes Natasha at the restaurant and drinks from her water. She tries to apologize. She never meant for any of this to happen. You know, you mean when you slept with Big, you didn't want him to leave his wife for even 1 second, Carrie? But don't worry though, because Natasha drags Carrie to filth.
I'm sorry he moved to Paris and fell in love with me. I'm sorry that we ever got married. I'm sorry he cheated on me with you, and I'm sorry that I pretended to ignore it for as long as I did. I'm sorry I found you in my apartment, fell down the stairs and broke my tooth. I'm very sorry that after much painful dental surgery, this tooth is still a different color than this tooth. Finally, I'm sorry that you felt the need to come down here. Now, not only have you ruined my marriage, you've ruined my lunch.
Also, Carrie does not deserve her fabulous ending of the episode narrative. You are a woman who ruined a relationship and you're thinking about how your ex is back on the market? You two deserve each other. Episode 18, Cock-a-doodle-doo. So I hate to finish the season with another content warning, but this is like the infamous trans episode, and I'd like to give a content warning for transphobia, and I would argue even subtextual racism. If you would like to see an amazing video discussing Sex and the City's LGBT representation and one that goes into depth about this episode in particular, I would strongly recommend checking out Lily Simpson's video titled The Girl Boss Transphobia of Sex and the City. It's really, really good. We're starting the episode off. It is 4:25 in the morning, and Carrie gets woken up by a rooster. Okay. Apparently, someone just has roosters on the top of their roof because she lives next to an animal hospital. There's just 4 on the roof in a cage, alone. I'm also going to summarize Samantha's B plot because 1, quite frankly, it's not worth our time. And 2, I don't like it. I don't like it, so I get to control. I control what I tell you guys. It's also just the bi episode squared. The entire episode basically consists of these transsexual prostitutes. They're outside of Samantha's apartment in the meatpacking district. She does not like what they're saying or that they're speaking so loudly. Samantha politely confronts them later. They come to a mutual agreement where they're gonna keep it down. 3 days later, while Sam has a guy over, they're kind of loud again. She yells at them. She calls the cops on them. And then when things don't go her way, she throws an entire thing of water out her window at them. But don't worry though, because the whole thing miraculously is over with a rooftop barbecue. So at brunch after some tea talk, Charlotte is down and about her separation. So much so that the girls plan to cheer her up that weekend. Carrie takes the opportunity to head over to the pet clinic. Apparently they're rescued roosters from a cockfight that happened in the Bronx. And I will say, she has been more considerate about the roosters than Natasha this entire season. Miranda is going through the routine of getting some food ordered because our girl just cannot cook, and she does not buy groceries either, apparently. And she also thinks that the girl that's answering her order for Chinese takeout is making fun of her repetition. She thinks the girl is laughing at her. I think it's Miranda's insecurities coming out. Can't a girl laugh? So we're walking down the street for the last time this video. Carrie and Miranda nearly run into not only Steve, but also Aiden apparently. They're friends with dog benefits. And also apparently Steve does not know about what happened between Aiden and Carrie because he's just way too happy for me to believe that. And also Aiden grew a mustache and a beard. And also they're apparently on a double date. Good for Aiden! It's girls' night. Everyone's helping Charlotte unpack into her singledom. Carrie and Miranda can't believe that their exes are over everything. Charlotte, however, is tired about women being obsessed with men, and we're cycling stories, people. I've seen this before. We've all seen this before. Carrie says that she does not obsess over men. I'm calling bullshit on that. Miranda, we can tell that she's still bitter about Steve, and Charlotte just jumps off the cliff. Carrie later gets a phone call from Big. He's repainting his bedroom red, and Big is relaying the news. Natasha left. Good for her. But it doesn't stop him from inviting Carrie to have lunch at Central Park, and Carrie says yes, actually. Later on, she's thrifting with Miranda for a nice date outfit without Miranda knowing. Carrie lies about work to not go out with Miranda, and then admits that she's lying to Miranda about work so that way she can go out with Big for lunch that same day. Miranda does not approve. You hate it when a fight this good has two girls proving a point. Like, fights like that kill people. They tear down nations. Back at home, Carrie is trying to call to apologize, and Miranda's trying to call for takeout. But she goes to confront the girl at the restaurant. Like, she goes to the restaurant to talk to the girl. Like, that's a little bit too much for me. It's not that serious. But also when she's there, she sees Steve, and she decides to sit down with him. I hate how much of a bum of a man, how this bum of a man can be so loving and so lovable. Miranda lays out the fight, and I'll admit it, I like him here. It's enough for Miranda to change her order and try something new. Charlotte's at home reading about mindfulness, and Trey gives her a surprise visit, and he goes insane. He likes that they're separated now, and I think the Madonna whore complex that we talked about previously is now being proven true because of that. Charlotte asks the real question though, but he still thinks she's wonderful. Carrie's at her date, calls Miranda on the pay line, and maybe she's just a little bit pathetic. I think we can all say that. She thinks it's just something she has to do to move on from Big. We all know that's not true. She can move on all she wants, but I will never move on from a dress that she's wearing that's so good. Her Richard Tyler dress that's so incredible that it's at the museum's Victoria. It's history. It's historical. This is a moment in time. So Carrie walks up, sees Big by the water on like this bridge, walks up to greet him, and I have no idea how it happens, but they both take a nosedive into the water.
My Christian Dior purse!
I'll get it!
They return to his place and they end up showering separately. You know what I hate about all of this? Like, after 3 seasons of this man giving us nothing, making me hate him, this is the first time I feel that we see Big as a character like actually open up and like talk like a human. He's laughing, he's cursing, he's casual, he's making jokes. This is not a laughing matter. Like, I hate how much I like it, and I hate how much I'm beginning to see what Carrie sees. He says he likes living alone again, Carrie laughs it off, and he's giving her doe eyes. But she declines, and we start to realize, just like the direction, things change between them. Later on, she's back home in the smallest button-up dress I have ever seen in my life, and our girls are at Samantha's afterwards at the aforementioned rooftop barbecue. Our girls are drinking flirtinis. Carrie does this voice.
What do you mean, you with the flower? You talking to me?
Our girls are laughing, and they are dancing the season away. This truly was a Sex in the City. I would like to relay my board situation before we finish up the video. I know that seeing all of this makes it feel as though I don't like these characters, but I would argue otherwise. I would actually say that, to be quite honest, the characters with the most flags are probably the most interesting ones out of there. We talk about Carrie so much because we all love her. She's insane, but we love her. I hate Big, but honestly, seeing him on the screen lets me know that something's gonna happen. It's probably why I didn't like Aiden as much. I really loved making this video, and I will be seeing you guys hopefully for part 2. You know, seasons 4 through 6. I'm not touching the movies, but anyways, I love you guys, and I will be seeing you next time. Bye!